Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and thank you once again for joining us on day 2 of the 2022 Digital at Sea Asia Pacific Conference. My name is Juyan Cho, and I greet you once again on the second day. I would like to go over the session titles once again for the second day. Today we will be looking at the harmonious maritime digital transformation, second, maritime cybersecurity, and Digital at Sea Conference and Promotion of e-Navigation. And then as a side event, we'll also have an MOU signing ceremony on Global Digital Testbed Cluster. And then last but not least, we will wind down with a closing ceremony. We ask you to please join us until the very end to the closing ceremony. At the end of each sessions, we'll have a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, please raise your hand and our moderator will be able to either take the questions from the floor, or for those of you who have questions joining us online, you can use the Q&A chat site as well. And now, yesterday, Mr. Mick Kinley, the CEO of AMSA, has mentioned that he was quite eager to be moderating the harmonization factor of our third session. So without further ado, I would like to hand over the microphone to our third session's moderator, Mr. Mick Kinley. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
감사합니다. 안녕하세요. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So yesterday we had a lot of information, I think, on the foundational building blocks of the digitization of the maritime industry, data architecture, things like S100 standards, the IMO data compendium, and possible ways that we might move that data around with technologies such as VDES. So today, we're going to be moving into what are some of the things that we may be able to do with data and some of the practical use cases of digitization, and how harmonization is the key to being able to do any of these good things that you can do with data. So our first speaker this morning is Associate Professor Park Hyun-woo from Seoul National University in the Graduate School of Data Science. Associate Professor Park holds a PhD in Industrial Engineering from Georgia Tech, Master of Information Management and Systems from UC Berkeley, and a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Seoul National University. He's been widely published with research in business and data analytics, supply chain management, network from a network perspective, innovation management, and he's here today to talk about the fuel of the digitization, and that is the implementation of data science in the maritime industry. Please give him a round of applause, Associate Professor Park. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It is my pleasure to present this morning to you. So thank you for giving me a really nice introduction about me. I wish I wrote down about myself a little bit shorter, but thank you for a really nice introduction. So what I'm going to talk about today is how data science can be applied to the maritime industry. So before I begin my presentation, I would like to just briefly introduce myself. So I guess, before I begin, I just want to tell you that I added a couple of slides about data science. So I came to this conference yesterday, and then I realized that maybe I want to present a little bit more about data science because I'm not particularly an expert in the maritime industry, although I recently started some research around the shipping industry, global logistics, etc. So I want to bring some of the data science education and research to the audience. I think that's a little bit more interesting to people here. So this is something you can read about myself. So right now I'm working at Graduate School of Data Science at Seoul National University. Before that, I worked at some business school in the US, and I studied and worked in different fields of study before coming back to Korea. So today I'm going to talk about overall three big topics. So one is the era of big data. So how we came to where we are today. And then I'm going to talk about the potential of data science applications in the maritime industry, which is, I think, burgeoning. And then lastly, I want to talk about some efforts made in Korea about the maritime data science and also data science education in general. So let me begin with the era of big data. So now it is a little bit, I guess, even boring to say the big data and data science and maybe artificial intelligence technologies have changed the world and the way we live almost. So all those things have been fueled by the massive accumulation of data. These days, really unimaginable amount of data are being accumulated every day. And then those data actually come from every aspect of life, like travel. So a lot of you came to Korea by plane. So those traveling data, sales, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So every aspect of our life is being captured and structured as data, and that becomes fuel for some new services and innovation. So I think some of you may not be familiar with data science, the concept of data science, perhaps. So I prepared really kind of brief introduction of what data science does. And in short, data science is basically an attempt or field of study to convert data into insight. So we want to convert the data that you're seeing on the left to something very useful in whatever you're doing. So that's data science. But oftentimes, so this is really nice conceptualization of data science, but in reality, when you start collecting data, it is really oftentimes dirty. So it can be dirty in many different ways. So you have to clean up those data before even you start doing anything useful. So the way I would define data science is this ABC plus D. So in order to collect and clean up and do something about the data, you need to be very, let's say, proficient in building models like artificial intelligence or machine learning. And also you need to be really good at handling really large-scale data, which can come and go really fast as well. And also you need to understand and handle all the computing infrastructure behind it. Then once you're competent in that layers, then you can start like kind of converting those data into some useful insight in what you're doing. So that's the domain you have. So in this case, the domain will be the maritime industry. So it can be port management or ship or vessel, etc. So that is domain, and data science is going to deal with the conversion process from data to insight. So this is my really brief introduction of data science. So these data science, let's say, breakthroughs have really started transforming a lot of industry on the ground. So for example, one of the most, let's say, popular examples mentioned in media and people is this kind of autonomous vehicle. So it's like it is already somewhat, it became a boring topic. We are now taking it for granted somehow. So, but it is really astonishing achievement, I would say, that we can build some model that can make real-time decision making, real-time decisions about what to do, what kind of action to take for driving in the real-time, real-world situation. So, but it is not perfect. But on the ground, we are seeing really functional and functional breakthrough using data science and artificial intelligence. So what enabled this kind of innovation and breakthrough is really the first thing is the strong digital infrastructure. So now we are talking about like 5G network, which is almost as fast as the wired connection. And also that large-scale infrastructure breakthrough enabled collection and use of large-scale data. So the reason why Tesla could build autonomous vehicle, they really relied on a lot of data collected from image and video. So this type of innovation and breakthrough were enabled by the use of big data, which was enabled by the strong digital infrastructure. And then what about the ocean, basically? So in the ocean, we are also seeing somewhat increase in data collection. And a lot of people start talking about what can be done with the data collected for the ocean and the maritime industry. So the data is growing in this area. But of course, it is hard to deploy some sort of, let's say, high-speed network or infrastructure in the ocean, because we cannot just walk on the water and build some tower, cell tower, and those things like we do on the ground. So that's the challenge. But I learned that Korea kind of recently launched this LTM infrastructure, which covers like kind of 100 kilometers from the shore. So this this is like kind of setting up the broadband across the nation, even covering the ocean. So 100 kilometers is really kind of big coverage, I would say. So we now have some infrastructure in the ocean. And then I heard that they are kind of starting to deploy some sort of application and based on that infrastructure. So we have strong infrastructure now, and then the government is, let's say, piloting some sort of use case on that infrastructure. So I think the maritime industry is seeing some really strong growth potential with this strong infrastructure and some ideas about the services for the future. So I really think the benefit or strength of data science is really kind of coming to the maritime industry as well, although it is lagged compared to what we are seeing on the land, but it is coming, I think. And then that is being enabled by the technologies and infrastructure installed recently, installed. So a lot of problems or challenges can be, let's say, at least addressed, or we can at least try to address them with the use of this data being made available with a strong network infrastructure. And there can be a lot of things to be done, like safety issues and climate change, which is becoming more and more prevalent global issue, and then some water resource protection, etc. So the next topic is what are being done in the maritime industry to address those issues with data science. So I actually studied and collected some cases about what are being done in this area. So some of these cases that I collected, you may or probably know, but it was pretty new to me, and I kind of wanted to share with you, taking this as an opportunity. So a couple of interesting attempts from startups or NGOs and that I found include this Sinai, which runs some integrated platform data analytics for the maritime logistics or environmental monitoring. So this is one of them. And then also people are thinking about building some autonomous driving on the ocean as well as the land. So IBM and some other companies are working on making these vessels autonomous in terms of their driving and routing. And then, so just like Tesla uses cameras to build their auto driving models. So some companies are looking at an opportunity to use camera images to make some vessels situation awareness based on AI and some data science. And then also some NGO is collecting data about vessels and rate is risk factors, and then classify some of the vessels as high risk or low risk, and they are making some success. And also, I think it's really clever application of the computer vision. So in terms of fishery resource protection, some Australian NGO tried to use computer vision to scan those fish images, etc., to check whether water resources are being properly used. And similar attempts are being made on many fronts. So I want to skip through these cases because I'm almost close to my time limit. So I just want to reiterate the opportunity that we are seeing in Korea with the deployment of this RTCM infrastructure and e-navigation system. But I really think that this new infrastructure, e-navigation system, is one of the possibilities that can be done or built on top of this network infrastructure. So if you remember when the first iPhone came about, so at that time we didn't even have App Store or those things. But once the iPhone broke that market, once they built the platform that led people to do something on top of those platform and infrastructure, the rest was history that we all know. So I think once the infrastructure is laid down now, so we can expect something similar in the maritime industry as well. So you can read this slide, and as a kind of last part of my talk, I kind of prepared what kind of data science education or emphasis is going on around the globe. So Stanford, so the slide after this is not kind of included in your packet, but so Stanford University and UC Berkeley are really kind of pioneering the education of a large-scale cadets of data science trained people. So Stanford is building a new complex for data science and computation, and UC Berkeley is developed a university-wide organization for computing, data science, and society, and they created this new intro data science course, which almost like 6,000 undergrad students take every year. So you can imagine how large scale it is to train these data science equipped people. And then at SNU, we are also kind of working on training these people, which I hope that eventually kind of influence some other industries, including the maritime industry. And then the philosophy behind our education is this ABC plus D as well. So AI algorithm and big data and computing, we kind of train students competent in this area, and then they can go out in the world and then apply those skills to domains, including the maritime industry. So I think the future is bright, and thank you for thank you for paying attention to my presentation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Park. And I forgot to mention earlier that we will save our questions until after all three speakers have finished for the session. So if you have questions for Professor Park, please note them down and keep them from the end. And now we are going to be hearing from Mr. Michael Bergman, and Michael needs no introduction, but he's getting one anyway. And he's very well known to those of us who have been engaged with e-navigation and digitalization of shipping, originally with a software engineering background in the aviation industry. Michael has been president of CIRM from 2013 to 2018, and now has his own consultancy company providing considerable support in the digitization of the maritime world with IALA, IMO, IHO, IEC, and many others. He's a fellow of the Royal Institute of Navigation, associate fellow of the Nautical Institute, and has published many papers and speaks at many conferences. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Michael today on the need for introduction of global digital testbed cluster. Thank you, Michael, and please give him a round of applause to welcome him.
Thank you very much, Nick. And thanks for the very nice presentation we just heard from you, Professor Park. Data are the new gold. That is more or less where we are. Without data, more or less we can go nowhere in nowadays world. What I want to talk today about is facilitation of global digital route cluster. We heard about that yesterday, we heard about that today, and we will see a MOU signature at the end of the day today. But how do we actually do that? What do we need to do to build that cluster? And also, why should we actually do that? You may have heard about Shipping 4.0, which is coming up as the new way of how we are executing shipping, how we are improving shipping. And that is right where you just talked about, Professor Park, combining maritime logistics with ICT technology. And we are getting to a smart maritime logistics. which is the reason why we have shipping. That picture from Sun Bei Hong from 2019 illustrates in which direction we want to go. And it also shows where we already are. When you have seen what we just heard in the prior presentation from Professor Park, LTE maritime has been implemented, data is being shared. We have, for data sharing, a lot of low orbit satellites. We go to VDES and other means. And we actually are not moving towards shipping 4.0, we are in shipping 4.0. And all of that is based on data. Without data, it is nothing. So again, to my initial saying, data is the new gold. But shipping 4.0 has a lot of challenges. We are in a very traditional world in maritime. And coming from the aviation world, working for decades in aviation, and then starting 2004 in maritime, I have to say I was a little bit shocked where we had been 2004 in maritime. Large ships sailing with paper charts, captains plotting routes on paper charts with pens and other things. And that was something which I have not thought to see when moving from aviation to marine. But just take a look where we have moved from 2004 to 2022. We have gone a long way. We have recognized, maritime has recognized that we need to address our challenges. And even so, shipping is a very economic friendly way of transporting mass goods, comparing per tonnage with other modes of transportation. We are still trying to struggle with reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And you have heard yesterday the different ways IMO is trying to promote that, and that we actually are forced, rightfully so, to go there. So that's one of the challenges we have with shipping 4.0. Another challenge we are faced with is that, as we also have seen before, collaboration is important. Collaboration, innovation. But for collaboration, you need to share data. And sharing data is not in the genes of maritime actors. They try to hide, they try to keep the data for themselves and do not try to share. Well, data is gold, so you do not want to give out your gold right away. But without sharing, we cannot move forward. So we need to share. That's an important aspect to keep in mind. We need to share data, as I was saying. Otherwise, we will not improve. And when you take a look to those pictures, I had one picture from a bridge of a cruise ship, most modern cruise ship in the late 50s, early 60s. There was more or less nothing what was shared on the outside. Everything was on the ship. Well, even the communication with the engine room was via a tube, not digital. Now, when you take a look to the pictures down, with modern ships, with the modern vessel traffic services and vessel support centers, it's all full of electronics. That only works when you're sharing data. So you need to share your information. You need to keep that in mind. One thing what we always need to understand when we are trying to move forward is that shipping is international by nature. We are transporting goods around the globe. We are moving from continent to continent. And shipping is the bloodstream of modern economics. We see the effects when something doesn't go right. Just remember the blockage of the Suez Canal and what effect it has had to economics in Asia and in Europe. The large number of ships in front of US ports, the shortage of containers, which had ripple effects to all of the economics. My wife drives a shoe store, and I would have never imagined that I feel in the store of my wife in a small town outside of Frankfurt that there are issues with shipping. But the shoes from Asia didn't come. She couldn't sell it. So it comes to our own life if shipping doesn't work as it should. And that again makes us understand how important shipping for international trade and our economics is. But we also have in shipping the regional conundrum. So we have the difficulty that, yes, shipping is international, but a lot of actors are focused and need to focus on regional and on local activities. Ports are not necessarily interested in how ships are cruising through the oceans as long as they arrive in time. And they do not want them to come ahead of time. As you see, for example, in Singapore, a lot of ships waiting to get a berth place. And also when IMO started e-navigation was seen as an international initiative of the international maritime organizations. But what you see on these charts are those clusters of ports with e-navigation initiatives which are regional. So we have EU initiatives on e-navigation. We have Asian initiatives on e-navigation, Korea initiative of e-navigation. We have in Canada, in the US, in the Mediterranean, in Australia, we have initiatives on e-navigation. But if you think back, there is not a single e-navigation initiative which is global, which actually crosses the ocean. Now remember the prior slide, shipping is international and need to be international, but solutions being developed are regional or local. And we need to break this conundrum. It is a dilemma we are in that some actors like shipping lines think global and not necessarily local or regional because they are responsible for transporting goods, for example, from Asia to Europe. And other actors in shipping think local, but not global, because they are responsible of the activities in a given port or in a given region. In order to break that, we need international collaboration. We not only need collaboration within local communities, like, for example, in the port community system, trying to bring together the different actors. And when we had been as the STM validation project looking into implementing port collaborative decision-making, it was astonishing that we had ports where we at the first time brought together all actors, that the tugboat operators haven't talked to the pilots or to the stevedores. So we brought them together, and not only on the regional and local side, but internationally we need to collaborate. It is paramount because we cannot optimize what we do if the international trade of ships, in that example from Sanbei Hong, trading from Korea to Europe, is not look at international collaboration. So what we really try to do with the cluster, which is to be established, is to bring on the stakeholders in different countries and regions to foster and enable international collaboration, which helps us to support the international structure of shipping by acting regional and local, but collaborating internationally. And there are defined stakeholders which we need to have in. We have project supporting organizations, IALA, IMO, IAGO, international organizations, which are stakeholders as they are defining standards, as they are defining guidelines, as they are defining the necessary infrastructure, regulations we need. We need the local actors in ports, terminals, tugboats, pilots, and so on and so forth. We need the shipping lines which are connecting the different ports together. We need the data service provider like the HOs, the ranks, the value-added resellers, and also those which are providing real-time data streams. The coastal administrations, the service providers, and the research institutes which help us with the science which we just heard in the prior presentation as a basis which we can build on. But we also need countries and regions. Republic of Korea is a forerunner in that direction. Singapore is very active. But we also need East African countries. Egypt, for example, with the Suez Canal. The North African countries, the European countries. All of those need to be brought together in the cluster, and they need to be engaged in the cluster for it to be successful. Don't want to read, in light of time, those statements, but these are the highlights of the last Digital at Sea Asia Pacific conference here in Korea. And we were defining that we need to build a cluster of international, interregional test beds. But we need to move also from test beds to implementation, because test beds alone are not helpful. They are showing us the way, but we need implementations. We need to increase the collaboration of the stakeholders, and we need to make suggestions to IMO to actually define the necessary regulatory infrastructure. But how do we get to facilitate that cluster? Some ideas I brought together and bring to your attention is getting key stakeholders together. I talked about it before. Signing an MOU, which will be done today. So now is the day. It's not yesterday, it's not tomorrow, it's now. Establishing a secretariat which can lead and guide and ensure moving forward in that cluster. Developing visions and long-term plans. In which direction do we want to go? What do we want to accomplish? And try to harmonize that through all stakeholders. Defining projects in the context of the cluster, regional and national projects in the context of the cluster, and then executing those cluster projects and use that framework for harmonizing and coordinating. Then consolidating the results and establish the required regulations and standards. If we move forward with that, I think we can very well facilitate Digital at Sea cluster and bring it to the result, which is an implementation and improves efficiency and safety of maritime transportation. So the concept of the cluster is to do global harmonization and local implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. It was very challenging, and I've got some questions for you later. Our final speaker for this session is Park Jin-hyung from KRISO. Mr. Park is the Senior Director of Maritime Safety and Environmental Research Division at the Korean Research Institute of Ship and Ocean Engineering. He's the Vice Chair of the IALA E-Navigation Committee WG1, Chair of Maritime Messaging Services Working Group, Maritime Connectivity Platform Consortium Secretariat involvement, and is a very active person in the world of digitalization and was previously a critical part of the Korean Smart Navigation Project. That makes him eminently qualified to talk today about the practical implementation of global digital route transition testbed. Welcome and thank you, Mr. Park.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I need to check the remote control first. How I can the things go. Okay, yeah. I'm very happy to deliver my presentation, especially in person. In this conference, I think it took about 3 years to be here again in person. Today, I'd like to present something on how we can go to the maritime digitalization and the maritime transformation, maritime digitalization and the maritime digital transform era. As Professor Park told us, we are living in the era of digital transformation, or era of fourth industrial revolution. We need to know exactly where we are in terms of digital transformation. Yesterday's presentation, Jillian told that there is a difference between the digitization and digitalization. Yes, there is a big difference between them, and also there is also a big difference between the digitalization and digital transformation. I'd like to start my presentation with how that is different. Digitalization, we need to start digitalization as the first step of the digital transformation. Digitalization is converting information, analog information, into digital ones, like the zero and ones. Navtex and electronic chart, this is a very good example for digitization in the maritime world. Digitalization is, it describes how IT or digital technologies can be used for altering existing business processes. The altering business process is a very important part for digitalization. As you can see from the definition of the e-navigation, e-navigation is the IMO's strategy to digitalize maritime navigation, because it tried to alter navigation process by using the IT technologies, while keeping the overall navigation process as it has been so far. So there is no changes in the overall navigation processes, but changes in the detailed process of navigation, aided by or supported by the IT systems. That is the digitalization. Digital transformation, that is the most pervasive phase, and it describes company-wide or global-wide change that leads to development of new business models by implementing a new business logic to create and capture value. So at the digital transformation phase, we can find that there is new business model and that there is new value that needs to be captured by that business model. And that is the digital transformation. Considering all these definitions, I like to say that we are at the middle of digitalization, not finished yet, not matured yet, and also we are heading for digital transformation. That is my understandings on where we are. I told that we are at the middle of digitalization. That means we have something on our hands. We have S100, the framework of CMDS, to share information between the maritime entities. And we have maritime services, digital services, that alters detailed navigation business by using the IT technologies while keeping the navigation process as a whole is kept as it has been so far. And we have a maritime connectivity platform that has been told so many times in this conference. Digital transformation occurs in a digital world, but that digital world should be connected to real world at the end. And also, the physical entities that is connected to that digital world should be also connected to each other. So MCP, that is all about the connectivity. We have the MCP on our hands. In some cases, we found that although all the sectors are matured enough for the digital transformation, we can say that in some cases we can find some very matured cases of digitalization, like smart navigation and SCM services, as you heard yesterday. Now we are heading to capturing a new value, greenhouse gas reduction, or the greener globe, greener Earth. That is our new value, I can say that. In altering business process-wise, we cannot exclude autonomous shipping. We cannot exclude greener shipping either. Both of business processes the changes are very essential for our world and for our business as well. To implement or to make real the digital transformation in maritime sector, I'd like to propose a new initiative that is not new, that is old in some aspect, because I have proposed last conference in the last conference as well as a global maritime digital transition initiative. I just call it GMDRT. It can be regarded as a new or another testbed. Yes, it's a testbed. It can be regarded as a testbed for transition. Testbeds so far have been local or just regional. But the testbeds that will be embraced, that will be implemented during the GMDRT, will embrace all the testbeds in the world, or multiple testbeds in the world, to connect region and region, or country and countries. Testbed so far has been node-centric. That means the testbed is dedicated for some country or dedicated for some region. The country or region could have its own portfolio for its maritime services. So we could see that smart navigation also has its own maritime service portfolios, 6 portfolios. And STM services also has its own maritime service portfolios. But we can see all the maritime service portfolios are separated from each other, like this. But what happens between those? As Michael told, navigation is in nature international and global. Navigation is not just in node that covers between nodes as well. I call it edge or root. So far, testbed has been node-centric. So digitalization by using that testbed was also node-centric. By using the GMDRT testbed and aiming for the transition with the name of GMDRT, I believe we can fill the gap between the nodes. By filling the gap, we can build up the route-centric testbed that can lead to route-centric digitalization at the end, global digitalization in maritime sectors. By having that on our hand, we can have some calculators because it requires some costs. To have some benefit, it requires some cost. There are several or many stakeholders, so especially service providers like government and the service consumers, shipping companies, and the shipyard as well. So all those stakeholders have its own formula for calculating benefits and costs. I have listed some benefit and cost from each of stakeholders' view. From service consumers' perspective, the shipping company, obviously they need to install some additional equipment. This is a fact. We cannot say that there is no need for installing additional equipment. I believe there should be some additional equipment. But the key is that how much benefit they could get from their additional installation of new equipment. From service providers' perspective, this is the government perspective, I believe. And, they can expect less carbon dioxide emission for the world, and the safe navigation environment they can provide. And nowadays, stability in supply chain is also very important after COVID. So all these facts could be a benefit from the digitalization and digital transformation. But they need to install additional infrastructure, like Republic of Korea did, installing communication infras that is required. From the seafarers' perspective, they could be benefited from the safer navigation environment. That is very obvious, I think. But interesting, I could see that there could be benefit from less workload and cost from additional workload. I think this is the different type of workload, I think. As I told you, all these formulas could be its own perspective. That means the formulas of seafarers and the formulas of shipping companies could be different. Sometimes it could be aligned, sometimes it could be in conflict. We need to have some harmonized formula for calculating benefit and cost for digitalization and digital transformation. By having that formula on our hand, we can precisely estimate the benefit and cost of the digitalization and digital transformation, and we can realize it practically and in time. And even we can make it evolved agilely and continuously in the future. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Dr. Park. And there we have it, people, this morning. This is the final speaker in this session, so I hope we have some questions. We started with Professor Park on the science of data, very much the blood that will make everything work, some of the foundational issues with data that you have to get right. How do we then set ourselves up for the future and what's already happening? Michael, bringing the concept of then how we can use that data, join things up, have the concept of a global digital route cluster, and then Dr. Park further developing that concept of how do we get that international and global cooperation happening. So firstly, before I ask a question, do we have any questions from the floor at this stage? And don't worry if you don't, I'll just ask them. All right, well, I'll go first then, seeing everyone's a bit shy. So question for Professor Park. And this comes from a person who has an organisation that has all of those problems with data, siloed, questionable quality, systems that don't talk to each other. If you were advising an organisation like myself, where would you start? What would be the first thing to do?
Well, after I came to Korea, I started kind of working on some maritime problems, and actually outside of the maritime boundary, whenever I start working on any project that I work on, then I first want to kind of see any data you have. So oftentimes people asking to solve kind of problem don't know what kind of data available. So they have some sort of vague understanding of what kind of data available, but oftentimes it turns out that either they actually don't have the data or it is really not in a usable form. So as Mike said, data is new gold, but oftentimes that gold is non-existent or it is kind of really mixed up with sand or something. So understanding what kind of resource is available in terms of the availability of data and how well structured and thought through it is, I think that's the first step to solving any data related issue or any problem that can be enhanced by data. Yeah. Thanks for asking that question.
Thank you for your answer, and I'll make sure I exchange business cards with you after this. Question for Michael and Dr. Park, and a very easy question. Who is missing in this room? Who do we need to talk to make the global collaboration happening? Who is not in the tent that we need to bring into the tent? Easy question for you, that one.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, we have little interaction with shipping lines, and we have very little interaction with ports and port actors, and especially those port actors which are only acting locally. For example, Tack port operators, they have no interest internationally, but they are essential for that type of environment we are in. So in essence, we need to be sure that we have all the wheels together, even those wheels which do not come to mind, the linesman, the stevedores. We need to bring those in as well, because only if that all works together, then we can be most efficient.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Park, do you have other views?
Is there anyone from shipping company today here?
I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to ask that same question. So
we are. So shipping companies is not here, and we are missing them, and maybe seafarers, and I know the ex-seafarers, many of ex-seafarers, and this conference is organized by the MOF and many government officers. So we have service providers and service seafarers, but the service consumers is not here. Mm-hmm. That has been always a problem, because during the days of navigation, we could see that here that all the objections are coming from the shipping companies' side, because that is not just opposition, that is just a concern, and that is their question. What could be their benefit from getting digitalized? And so GMDRT itself is how we can answer for that question by using some technical and scientific manner, by using data science as well, and with specific numbers.
Okay, and Michael?
Yeah, I think we also sometimes miss that shipping as such isn't working for itself. We're actually working for the consumers of the goods, and we are missing them, same as we are missing the often the hinterland connectivity. So ultimately, we are, as shipping, our service to get the goods from the factories when they come to ports to the consumers, and they are also often missing.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor? Yes, we have a gentleman over here. Thank you. And I think we could note that container shipping is making record profits at the moment. They could probably spend a few of their billions of dollars on some solutions here. But question here.
Professor Park, you mentioned shortly in your presentation that the possibilities of edge computing. I don't see no matter how good wireless communications will get, the amount of data that ships will produce from sensors, and even going to automatic shipping, it will never be enough. So have you investigated how that is used regarding data safety, privacy, and perhaps federated learning, how that will fit into this?
That's a really good question. So I believe you're mentioning like edge computing, right? Edge.
Yes,
right.
correct.
So I kind of came to Korea last year, and one of my colleagues is actually investigating the potential of applying those edge computing, etc. And he is kind of pushing the idea of edge computing a little bit further in a way that some of those advanced, let's say, model running can be done in the edge. It's not just some basic computation. You can actually run a deep learning model at the edge, like kind of you basically build in some GPU type of capability on a little device that can kind of sit on your hand. So, and it costs like $20 to $50, so it is not really expensive. So I think it has great potential for environments like the ocean, for example. As you said, the bandwidth is going to be much more precious in the ocean than on the land. So we definitely want to optimize the amount of data transferred over the network. So we want to do a lot of things autonomously at the end of the chain. So for example, like some monitoring system powered by AI models, we want to do the inference at the edge level instead of kind of sending all the real-time images and videos over the network and only to receive some piece of information processed by the server. So I think in that sense, edge computing has a lot of potential to disrupt or improve the way things are being done in the maritime industry. So that's really a brilliant point. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And question down here, Francis.
Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you very much for all these interesting presentations. I have been participating in all the e-navigation on the way and digitalization, and so has you, Michael, I think. And we have seen this development that we started only with the authorities, only the maritime authorities were present, and a little bit the scientific side. And then slowly we were joined by the manufacturers, but we still miss the users, the ship owners. And I think this is a little bit a problem or something we need to take very much into consideration. And we have discussed that with the maritime cluster, Michael. And I'm a little bit afraid that we sometimes try to solve problems that are not there. Because there's a reason why the end users are not here. They're maybe not that worried as we are. And something we have discussed in the maritime cluster discussion before, that we have to be extremely careful with our scarce resources and really focus on the problems that exist, and that the digital solutions are helpful for the end users. and that we skip the fascination of what is possible, because it's really nice to do, but we have to be extremely careful in the further process of the Maritime Cluster project to identify what the end users really need, what is needed, and then focus on that so we can see some results relatively fast. I think that's just something we need to discuss more in the project after we have signed the MOU this afternoon.
We have short time to respond, and
Thank you very much, Francis. I fully agree with that. But I also realized lately, especially through the incident in Suez Canal, that the users were realizing that they are really connected. I made that example with my wife's shoe store. And I got other examples where suddenly people come and says, oh, we didn't realize how much we rely on an effective maritime transport. We had been in the past so effective and integrated that nobody realized how important that aspect is. Now, as we see these disruptions, then we can use that to our advantage to go back to the user and say, well, you need to participate because you want us to be more effective than before. So fully agree, we need to go out and we need to try to find them. We need to foster them. By themselves, they will not come. And that's what we did with e-navigation underway as well. Thanks.
okay. I think that brings us 2 minutes over our allotted time, so we will have to wrap it up there. But thank you so much to Professor Park, Michael, and Dr. Park for very excellent presentations. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you.
And also, please give a big round of applause to our excellent moderator for keeping perfect timing. Thank you very much, Mr. Mick Kinley. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed that third session. Please do enjoy the break from now until 11:50 a.m. So we do have coffee and refreshments out in the lobby, so please do enjoy them. We also have the exhibition booths for KT, Marine Works, GMT, and Carnavicum. So please do enjoy them in your spare time. And I will be back to greet you at 11:50 a.m. Thank you very much. Our fourth session will be on maritime cybersecurity, and our moderator will be Professor Michael Thompson from the University of Oslo. With that, I believe all of our panel discussants are ready, so I will hand the microphone over to our moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome all of you here and to the fourth session today. So cybersecurity have been mentioned in many of the other sessions actually as something very important. So it's nice to see that there's a focus on it here as well at this conference. We do have years of practice in cybersecurity, how to deal with many of these things, and there's a lot of this technology, of course, we should build on, because the malicious actors we have in the sector as well that will try to damage the systems also have years of practice. So if we don't learn from best practice today, we will definitely be behind in the maritime sector. So it's a great pleasure that we have 3 interesting talks today. The first one will be by Kim-Yong Park on cybersecurity in the mass system. So Mr. Park has graduated from the KRISO in 1996 and received his degree there in computer science. He worked with wireless communication technology devices and analyzed flighting data for the Research Institute on Korean Airlines until 2017. Since then, he's been working at the Korean Register as cyber certification team manager today. In this process, he have been working on several projects at the Korean Register, where he are currently being part of the conditional based monitoring project and the smart navigation project, where he also have been working as a project manager, leading the international technology standard team within that project. So please welcome Mr. Park to the stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 네, 지금부터는 한국말로 하겠습니다. 저도 이
I'm going to speak in Korean.
이내비게이션 언더웨이 아시안 퍼시픽부터 해서
I have been
정거장
participating in the
발표를
conference
한것 같습니다.
since the title was e-navigation underway, and I have been speakers for 3 times in e-navigation.
3과제를 했었고요. 그다음에 지금
I
현재는
also
한국에서
did
하고
some
있는
projects for
자유로나
e-navigation
선박,
projects.
약자로
Currently,
이제 카스 코리안
I'm working for
오토노머스
KASS
서피스십 관련된
project,
프로젝트에서
which stands for Korea Autonomous
그리고 사이버
Surface Ships.
시큐리티
I'm in charge
부분을
of
연구를 하고
communication and cyber security.
첫 번째 페이지는 보시는 바와 같이
As you can see on the
현재
page,
저희 팀에서
on the slide,
저희 성급의 저희 사이버
this is what my
서티피케이션
team
팀에서
is doing. My
수행하고
team is
있는
a cyber certification
사이버
team.
보안에
We are
대한
doing
간략하게
cyber
설명을 드리겠습니다.
security
첫
tasks.
번째는
So let me briefly
저희가
tell you
현존선
what we are
이그지스팅
doing.
10에 대한 사이버 보안 체계 관련된
We
인증을 하고
establish,
있고
we
현재
provide
글래스고에
cyber
있는 송과신
certification
매니지먼트
services for
선박 한
existing
20여
ships.
척에 저희가 검사를 하고 있습니다.
We are doing this
코로나
service for
때문에
about 20
작년과
ships in
올해는
Glasgow
리모트로
due to the COVID-19
경험이
pandemic.
있고요.
For the past
밑에
2
보이시는
years,
두
we
번째
provided
그림은
these services
실제 이제
online.
신조선
And we have 2 other
선박을
pictures
건조할
on the
때
slide. When a new ship is
현대중공업과 같이
constructed,
협력하여서 저희가 사이버
we are
보안을
cooperating with
한
Hyundai
것이
Heavy
있습니다.
Industries
그거에
to
대한
provide cyber
세
security
번째 그림을
services.
보시면
Let's
첫
take a
번째
look at
이제
the
침투
third
테스트하고
picture. This is about
신조선방에 대한
penetration
그리고
test.
취약성 진단을
And
직접
we
해서
also
보고서를
provide
하고
diagnosis
관련해서
of
저희가
vulnerabilities. We also
CS
provide
레디라고
a
하는
report.
클래스 노테이션을
And we
부여를
have something called the
하였습니다.
class ready.
두
This
번째는
is a grade
사이버
given
시큐리티
to ships.
형식 승인.
And we
이것도
also
지금
do
오늘 전시되어 있는
provide cyber
마리노스의
security type approval.
액티스
And we
장비가
have some
올해
displays of Marine
작년 말 올해
Works. It's
저희한테
about
신청을 해서
Actis
사이버
product.
시큐리티
And we
타입
got a
어프로브를
request
했고요.
from the company last
현대
year, and
글로벌
we gave the type
서비스인
approval for the
현대중공업
Actis.
회사 그러니까
And Hyundai Heavy
그룹사
Industries
중에 한 곳에서 개발 중인
subsidiary
ISCS라고 하는 장비도 저희한테 형식
has
승인을 받은
has
예가 있습니다.
equipment called
밑에 부분을
ISCS. We
보시면
also gave a type
현재
approval for the ISCS.
한국
At the bottom of the page, you
자율항
can
선박
see
카스 프로젝트에서 개발 중인
for
여러 가지 코어
core
테크놀로지를
technologies
1번,
under
2번, 3번, 4번으로
KASS
저희가 분류가
project.
되어 있습니다. 그래서 오늘
Today,
저의 이제 발표인 자율운항 시스템에 대해서 해서 사이버 보안을 얘기하기 위해서 이런
to talk about
카테고리를
cyber
설명을
security
드렸습니다.
on Mars,
먼저 첫 번째로
I
저희가
wanted to tell you
현재
these
앞에서도
categories
많이
first.
발표해 주셨지만
As many previous
과연 회사
speakers said,
산업에서
we
회사
have to
업계에서
think about
디지털 환경은 어떤가 간단하게 살펴보도록 하겠습니다.
what is the digital
먼저 현재
environment in maritime
선박은
industry.
보시는 것처럼
As you can see
아주
in the
많은
slide,
다수의 선박은 전통적인
the majority
컨벤셔널
of ships
선박입니다.
are
그
conventional ships.
선박들이 유가 문제로 또는
Due to
지금
high oil
CO2
prices
관련된
or
친환경으로
CO2
친환경 선박
emission
그리고
issues,
자율운항 선박과 무인 선박을
those
포함한
conventional
스마트 선박
ships have
이런
been
것들이
converted
개발이 되어
to
있습니다.
eco ships or smart
거기에는
ships, and even
지금
we are
ICT
seeing
기술이
development
타
of
산업에서 많이 발전을
unmanned
해오고
ships, and we
그게
have
현재 우리
highly
선박에도 회사
sophisticated
산업에도 적용이 돼
ICTs, and those
있다라고 보실 수
ICTs are
있겠습니다.
integrated into the
두
maritime industry.
번째로는 현재 유럽이나 혹은
If you look
뭐
at
미국,
Europe,
일본,
the US,
또 싱가포르
Japan,
여러
and
나라에서 여러
Singapore,
국가에서
you can see
자율운항 선박이나 혹은 스마트
Mars
선박을 위한 장비들이
and
많이
smart
개발이 되고
ships
있습니다. 그 중에 특히
related
우리나라
equipment
3대
have
조선소에서
been
개발
developed
중인
actively
장비들을
in the
간략하게
three major
예,
Korean
보여드리는 겁니다. 첫 번째
shipbuilding companies are
현대중공업에서는
also active in
ISS라고 하는
developing
인테그레이티드
those
스마트십
devices.
솔루션을
One
개발해서
example is
현재 여러
ISS
선박에
developed by Hyundai Heavy
장착해서 시험을 하고
Industries.
있고
This is
거기에
already
대해서 이제
on some
저희
ships for test.
한국 성급의 아까
in
보셨던
KR
사이버 보안 형식 승인을 현재 거의
has
취득하고자 하는
almost
단계에 이르렀습니다.
given
그리고
a type approval
삼성에서도
for
자율운항
ISS.
선박
And Samsung
관련된 장비
Heavy
사스라고
Industry
하는 것을 개발하여 탑재하고 있고
developed a
DSME 같은
SAS,
경우는
which is
DS4라는
Samsung
스마트십 솔루션을
autonomous
개발해서
ships,
하고
and
있습니다. 즉
DSME
조선소들이
developed
이런
DS4,
장비들을 만들고
which is
있다는
smart
것은
ship solutions.
스마트십 또는
shipyards
자율운항 선박
are
또는
developing
자율운항
this
시스템 선박의
devices and
스마트화가
equipment because
가속화되고 있다고 볼 수
they
있겠습니다.
recognize the accelerated development
두
of
번째는 이제
autonomous
이
ships.
그림은 현재 저희가 참여하고 있는
Now let's take a look at the
한국
picture.
자율운항 선박 프로젝트에 대한 간략한
This is an
그림입니다.
overview
그래서
of
보시는 것처럼
KASS.
인텔리전스
As you can see
내비게이션
here,
시스템, 그다음에
we have
머시너리
intelligent
오토메이션
navigation
시스템, 컨트롤
system,
테크놀로지,
machinery
오퍼레이팅
automation
테크놀로지 크게
system, control
네
technology,
섹터로
and operation
나누어서 개발 중에
technologies. There
있습니다.
are four core technologies under
그다음에 특히 이제
KASS.
저희가 자율운항 또는 자율운항 시스템, 자율운항 선박에
When you
대한
talk
어떤
about autonomous system and
현재
Mars,
상황이라면 지금 사이버 보안 같은
we
경우는
have to
상당히
mention
저희에
cyber
근접했습니다. 가장 간단하게 2017년도 머스크의
let's take an example.
네파타야라고 하는 것으로
In
인해서
2017, Maersk was attacked by a new
많은 그
ransomware
손해가
called
났다는 걸 이미 아실 수 있을
Non-Pattaya,
거고요. 거기에
and it cost
못지않게 뭐 MSC라든지
the ship line
그다음에
a lot of
CMA
money, and
등등
NFC,
많은 지금
MSC,
선사에서
and CMA,
선박
and
관리사에서
other ship
사이버
liners.
보안으로 인해 어떤
They have been
많은
affected by
위협에
cyber
노출되어 있다.
attacks. They are
그런 경우가
exposed
있다는
to
것을
high
아실 수
level
있겠습니다.
of cyber attacks.
그다음에 이제 제가 사이버 보안에 관련해서 현재
Regarding
한국에 있는
cyber
조선소나
security, Korean
그리고
shipyards and
선박 관리, 선박 쉬핑 또는 십
shipping companies
매니지먼트
and ship
회사에
managers and ship
발표를 많이 할
liners,
때 이 장표를 많이 보여주고 있습니다.
they
현재
have
보시면
high
가장
interest
여기에서
in
주목해서
this
보실
slide,
것은
in what you are seeing on the
빔코에서
slide. I want you to take a look
2016년도에
at
처음
BIMCO
사이버
here.
시큐리티
Back in
관련된
2016,
가이드라인을
BIMCO published
발표했다.
guidelines on
그리고
cybersecurity
꾸준히
on board ships.
버전 2,
There was the
3,
first kind of
4
cybersecurity
관련해서 지속적으로
guideline
가이드라인을
for ships.
개발하고
And the following
있다라고
versions
하는
were
것이고요.
also
그래서 빔코는 아시다시피
published in the
선주
following years.
연합회입니다.
As you
선주에서
already
사이버
know,
보안이 시작이
BIMCO is an
됐다는
association of ship owners.
것이고 조금 아래쪽에
It is
보시면
important to note that the ship owner association started the
아래쪽에
guidelines on
보시면
cybersecurity
저기
on board
지금
ships.
오키프라고
And
하는
at the bottom
오일
of the page,
메이저
you can
포럼이 있습니다. 오일 메이저에서는
OCIMF.
선박하고 그러니까 오일을 나누는 탱커사의 선박과 그다음에 회사에 대해서 사이버 보안에 관련된
It also published
검사를 하고 거기에 대해서 점수를 랭킹을 줘서 이
inspections
사이버
in terms of
보안도
cybersecurity
평가 지수에 들어가고 있어서
ships
탱커사들은
and
이 사이버 보안에서 이미 많은 대비를 하고 있고
tankers. The
저희가
tankers
아까 말씀드렸던
being
송과
ready
십
for cybersecurity
매니지먼트는 이
inspection.
부분에 대해서 KR의 서비스를 요청했었고 저희와 같이 대응을
And
해서
Songa ship management,
만점을 그 항목에 대해서 만점을
UK
받았습니다. 그리고 특히 이제
ship
작년
liner,
10월에
we gave a certificate to the ship liner
작년에
and it
USCG에서
recorded a perfect score. And last
지금
year,
IMO에서 정한
USCG
사이버 리스크 매니지먼트 시스템을 갖춰라는 것에 대한 권고사항을
published vessel
강제사항으로
cyber
바꿔서
risk
현재
management.
보시는
It is
것처럼 뭐
mandatory.
싱가포르라든 USCG에서 선박 입항할 때
Singapore and
PSC 검사를
USCG
수행하고 있는 것을
are doing
수행하는 것을 알 수 있습니다.
PSC
그래서
inspections
사이버
when
보안은
the ships are
선사는
arriving.
피부로 많이 느끼고 있다는 것을
And
아실 수
these
있습니다.
examples show ship liners are taking cybersecurity
마찬가지로
very seriously.
새로 건조되는 신조 선박 관련해서는
regarding new
국제선급협회인
ships,
IAX에서
IAX
6월 26, 6월 27을 릴리즈해서
released UR 26 and UR 27.
2024년 계약 건조되는 선박부터 강제로 적용이 될
And this is
예정입니다.
mandatory for
그래서
ships that
앞으로
will be
신조 선박은
contracted and
반드시 사이버
constructed from
보안을
January 1st of
달성을 해야 됩니다.
2024. So new ships should take
관련해서
cyber security very
27은
seriously.
선박에
Let me
들어간
tell you more
장비에 대한
about
사이버
UR
보안
27. It's about
리퀘어먼트입니다.
requirements for cyber
특히
resilience of
보시는
onboard
것처럼
system and
UR이
equipment.
26은
And UR
사이버
26,
보안
as you can see on the
포10입니다.
slide,
선박들이 갖춰야 될 사이버 보안을
is
크게
applied to
5가지 항목으로
cyber
나눴고
resilience. And
현재
there are 5
저희 한국
elements.
선급이나 일반 즉 회사에서 또는 조선소에는 한 3단계까지는
KR
준비가
and
되어 있지만
shipyards,
마지막 보셨던
they are
리커버리나
ready
이쪽에 대해서는
until
추가
the
보안이
third level.
필요하고
That
특히
they
세
should
번째
do more
항목을
for
보시면
respond and recovery, which
여기에
are the fourth and
네트워크
fifth
오퍼레이션
level.
모니터링과
And if you
그리고
look at the third level,
관련된 컴퓨터 장비나
network
네트워크 장비를
operation monitoring
모니터링하는 어떤 소프트웨어나 시스템이
software
필요한
for
걸 보실 수가
CDS and
있습니다.
network
이 부분이
are needed.
현재 선박에서 없는 타사 섬에는 있지만
And other
이런 시스템이
classes
필요하다는
society
것을 아실 수 있습니다.
already have it in
예,
place.
그러면 두 번째로
The Korean
이제
class society and
자율랑
shipyards.
선박에 장착된 자율랑
not
시스템에
having
대한
it
사이버
now.
보안에 대해서 간략하게 설명을
Let me
드리겠습니다.
briefly tell you cyber security in
보시는 것은 실제
autonomous
저희 한국
system.
선급에서 선박을
This
검사할 때
is
선박 도면을
what
바탕으로
KR is
현재
using
저희가
for
구성해 본
inspection
현재
of ships cyber
선박 네트워크
security.
시스템입니다. 보시는 것처럼
This is what we call ships network
죄송합니다.
system.
보시는 것처럼 위성 시스템
As you
납품
can see
업체에서
here,
파이어월 하나를 달아서
satellite
그냥 현재
product
쓰고
provider
있는 그런 형태고 그 다음에 다행히
provides
내부에 있는 선박 시스템으로
what is
연동이 안
required
되고
for the system.
크루들은 이런
crew
무선 와이파이나 이렇게 쓸 수 있도록
can use
이렇게 분리는 되어
Wi-Fi
있는
system. So network is
상황으로
separated.
저희가 파악을 하고 있습니다. 두 번째 현재 선박에 대해서는 앞으로
For
사이버
existing
보안은
ships,
아약스 UR 26에 따른
IAX
것처럼
UR
각 존별로
26 is applied.
시스템을 구성하고 네트워크를 구성해서
So for
보안을 하는
different
것을
zones, systems and
추천을 하고
network should be created.
그러면
That's our recommendation.
자율운항 시스템 또는 자율운항 시스템 어떤 거냐면 기존 선박의
So what is
시스템에서
autonomous
아까
system we are talking about
앞에
here?
보셨던
As you saw in the
자율운항
previous
관련된
slides,
시스템들이 이렇게
we
따로
have these
일단은
systems
분리해서
related to
제가 이제
autonomous
다이어그램을 그렸습니다.
operations.
특히
So this
이제
is a
아까
diagram
보셨던
that is specific to
인텔리전트 내비게이션 시스템
autonomous
같은 경우는
system.
실제로는
Intelligence
기존
navigation
선박의
system
시스템과 연동이 돼야 하겠지만
should be
현재는 일단
connected to
개념적으로 이렇게
systems of
그림을
existing
그려봤고요.
ships. This is just a
그래서
diagram for now.
각 존별로 사이버
So
보안이
for
될 수
each
있게
zone,
파이어월이라든지
there should be
혹은 뭐 침입 탐지 시스템이라든지
actions or
이러한 식으로
measures
아주
to ensure cyber security.
타산업에서 요구하는 것만큼 이렇게
And
구성이 될
those
필요가
measures should
있습니다.
be as
이게
strong and
가장
robust
기본적인 원칙이라고 볼 수
as other
있습니다. 특히
required
장비
in other
하나에 대한 사이버
industries.
보안보다는
So
선박
we are not
전체를
talking
바라보는
about cyber security for
그
one
사이버 보안이
equipment.
필요하고요.
We are talking
특히나
about cyber
특정
security for the
장비에
whole
대해서 사이버 보안이 더
system on
요구될
board.
때는
When
특정
certain
파이어월이라든지 사이버 보안할 수 있는
equipment
장비를
requires a
추가
higher level of cyber
장착함으로써
security,
보안을 더 높일 수 있을 걸로
cyber
생각이
security
됩니다.
products will be
자,
needed.
이 부분은 제가 맡고 있는 자율항 선박에서 사이버 보안 쪽에서 선박을 위해서 좀
This
개발하고
shows
있는 장비입니다.
what we
어떤
are
거냐 하면
Developing
선박에
for
있는
cyber
OT
security
장비들에
on board.
대한
This is about OT
패킷들을 모니터링하고
equipment
특히
monitoring.
기존에 있는 장비보다는 조금 더 특화된 보안 장비가 필요하다.
If
특히
you
선박
think you need
장비들은
more
타산업과 틀리게 선박에만 맞는
equipment for stronger
프로토콜이라든지
cyber security,
프로토콜들을 많이
depending
사용하고
on
있습니다.
your
그래서
protocol,
예를 들자면
you may need
모드버스 TCP도 있고
to take a
그다음에
closer look at this.
지멘스라든지
For example,
저희
mode
선박 장비들을 하고 있는 콩스버그에서
device or
사용하고 있는
Kampfer's
특정 패킷들을 모니터링하고 거기에
packet
대한
can be
커스터마이즈된 사이버 보안이 필요하다고
And if you
저희가 분석을 해서
we
이러한
think there
사이버 자율항
is a need
선박뿐만 아니라
for
현재 우리
customized
선박에
cyber
필요한
security
사이버 보안
equipment.
장비를 한국에 있는
As you can see on the slide,
개발사와 같이
so
개발해서
we are developing
내년
those
정도에
products
테스트할
with
예정에
Korean
있습니다.
suppliers, and the test is scheduled. The test for the
여기가
product
여기까지가
is
제가
scheduled for next year.
실제로 하고 있던 프로젝트와 저희 경험을
And
바탕으로
all these
설명을 드렸습니다.
diagrams
예,
come from
감사합니다.
my experience in the KASS project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. We will follow the precedence of the last session and take the questions at the end. And of course, the floor will be open to questions as well. So next speaker is Mr. Michael Richters. He's technical officer at CIRM, has been working there since the start of the year. He's working there in the role of representing CIRM in matters relating to bridge navigation systems, maritime communications at IMO, ITU, IES, ETS, and MET meetings. Originally, he was trained at the British Navy and worked there as electronic engineer and electrotechnical officer with significant on-board and offshore site professional experience, having worked at a number of yard management and shipping companies over the last 12 years. This means he has a great experience firsthand with how ships actually work and how they're built, and of course, therefore perfect in his role as technical officer. Let's give a hand to Michael.
Just for the next.
Good day, I'm Mike Richards, Technical Officer for CIRM. Today I'd like to do a presentation about the CIRM Cyber Risk Code of Practice. For those attendees who were here at last year's Digital at Sea Asia, please be assured this is not the same presentation. I would like to also highlight other work that CIRM has undertaken and continues to undertake that supports this Cyber Risk Code of Practice. For those who are not present at last year's event, and as a little refresher for those that were, I'd like to start by informing you of what CIRM is and what it does. We're an international non-profit association of marine electronics companies. We're a non-governmental organisation that's consultative status to the IMO, with more than 100 members that comprise of equipment designers and manufacturers, service providers, system integrators, and software development companies. Marine electronics is a very broad scope and potentially could include systems such as propulsion on some vessels. So to clarify, CIRM is focused on navigation equipment and systems and radio communication and GMDSS equipment. Our board of directors is currently comprised of some of the more recognizable names in the industry. So what we do is represent the marine electronics industry internationally, and we contribute to development of regulation standards. We provide a way for our member companies to exchange ideas and opportunities and provide specialist information to our members. In February 2020, CIRM released its Cyber Risk Code of Practice for vendors of marine electronics equipment and services, with the accompanying guideline document on implementing the Cyber Risk Code of Practice. These documents are available freely to download for the CIRM website. For those that are not familiar with the documents, there are 6 principles presented in the code that we consider the foundation of cyber risk management. These are the adherence to applicable cyber risk standards and recommendations and guidance. These standards typically dictate what needs to be done. There's further guidance on how best you could comply to these standards in the form of frameworks, of which there are several available, such as the NIST Cybersecurity Framework of the US, or the UK National Cyber Security Centre Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. Default cyber secure. It should be assumed that equipment on ships or processes can never fully be cyber secure. However, equipment should have a default of being as secure as it's possible for it to be. A simple example would be not having equipment installed with default passwords on equipment, and all passwords being unique to that equipment, even though this would create additional overhead in tracking all those passwords. Confidentiality, we feel, is another principle of cybersecurity. An example would be the prevalence of phishing emails that has demonstrated bad actors can attempt to exploit any information that they can. Despite all guidance and advice to the contrary, people will still create, for example, passwords that are weak, including spouse dates of birth or pet names. Therefore, it's important confidentiality is accounted for in any cyber risk management plan. Quality is a foundation for cyber risk management. It's another thing we consider an important principle. It allows for the identification of objectives, determination of processes and resources required to achieve those objectives. An example that we give in our document is the Quality Management System, ISO 9001. Software update and vulnerability handling. Well, as well as ensuring new equipment meets all cybersecurity requirements, it is important to identify what fixes can be made to historic products in the form of firmware and software updates. Some instances of vulnerability will not be identified until a product has been released, and no matter how good the robust the testing process might have been. And finally, the last principle would be continuous development. Last point is raised that cybersecurity is a moving landscape. New risks are constantly being discovered. Defenses to those risks when they need to be developed. The Code of Practice reminds me that the efforts must be made to stay in date with these emerging threats, vulnerabilities, developments. So, since the release of the CIRM Cyber Risk Code of Practice, there's been many other developments in the field of maritime cybersecurity. For example, there's IACS Recommendation 166, Recommendation on Cyber Resilience, IACS Unified Requirement E26 and E27, which is cyber resilience of ships and cyber resilience of onboard systems and equipment, respectively. Additionally, there's IACS Recommendation 171, which is Recommendation on Incorporating Cyber Risk Management into Safety Management Systems, which was released in response to the IMO Resolution MSC 428, Maritime Cyber Risk Management in Safety Management Systems. And all these releases are just from one organisation. However, the document I wish to present further is ISO 24060 2021, which is basically a ship software logging system for operational technology. ISO 24060 is based on a 2017 CIRM BIMCO industry standard for software maintenance procedures. ISO 24060 was first published in July 2021, and CIRM was part of the team that helped develop this standard. The title of the standard is Ship Software Logging System for Operational Technology. So to know the scope of the standard, we should consider what operational technology is. ISO defines operational technology as the hardware and software used to manage physical processes through monitoring and or the control of physical devices. So these could be items on a ship such as pumps, valves, engines, machinery, or systems such as bridge, cargo handling and management systems, machinery management, power management systems, safety management systems, passenger services systems on cruise ships, for example. While CRM's focus is on navigation and communication systems, the standard covers far, far more. The standard defines a ship software logging system, software that will be able to record software versions for equipment with updatable software. It will be able to set an initial log entry when equipment is first installed or detected. It will include a repository of electronic services report that can be associated with log entries and can automatically log entries, reports sent by the equipment. The SSLS is designed to be on a ship's network and to be able to automatically log reports sent by the equipment, as well as initial log entry when the equipment is first detected or installed. So to do that, there needs to be some sort of universal message with this data available. ISO 24060 requires that SSLS systems should be capable of reading, creating log entries from the ver sentence or version sentence which is specified in IEC 61162-1. It should be possible to create manual logs. It should be noted that most current equipment won't be able to do this. It's very much the automatic part, very much a requirement or provision for future equipment. As well as the equipment details that can be passed by the version sentence, the SSLS will have additional fields for manual entries, such as category of entry, of which I provided some examples, or even for full service reports in various formats. Again, examples provided. So how is ISO 24060 and CRM Cyber Code of Practice linked? Well, if your equipment meets ISO 24060, then there's a good chance it'll meet the majority of the CRM Cyber Risk Code of Practice Principle 5, which is the part that refers to software updates and vulnerability handling. The future of the CRM working group relates to this. Well, BIMCO has established an industry working group on software maintenance, and CRM is still an active participant in this. The group has been tasked with adapting the CRM BIMCO industry standard on software maintenance of shipboard equipment into a proposal for a draft IMO guidelines or requirements on shipboard software maintenance. It was the intention of this working group to submit a draft proposal as an input to MSC 107, which is due to be held in June 2023. Additionally, CRM will be revising its cyber risk code of practice in the future to ensure it stays relevant and represents good practice. So this concludes my presentation regarding CRM and its work on the cyber risk in the maritime industry.
Thank you very much. So our final speaker today is, at this session, of course, before lunch, is Dr. Hwan Yo. Dr. Yo is the Chief Executive Officer at the founder of the maritime cybersecurity startup DS Lab Company. He's an expert in maritime cybersecurity, cybercrime investigation, digital forensics. Obviously, previously he worked at the cybercrime investigator at the Center of Investigation Department as part of the Korean Army. While there, he was in charge of the cybercrime investigation and digital forensics. He developed cutting-edge new cyber investigation techniques and digital evidence analysis methods. He also worked as a cybersecurity manager for the financial company, and he was responsible for penetration testing and web mobile security. He founded the DS Lab Company in 2016 and has since been focusing on analyzing cyber threats facing the maritime industry and ships, researching maritime cybersecurity. Dr. Yo recently analyzed cyber attacks targeting the maritime industry and ships with maritime cyber threat intelligence. This contributed to compliance with IACS E26 and 27. He also PhD from the Graduate School of Information Security at the Korean University. Let's welcome Dr. Yo.
저는 한국어로 발표를 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
If you don't mind, I'm going to speak in Korean.
네, 저장님의 멋진 그 소개
Thank you,
감사합니다.
Chair, for your wonderful
그리고 이런
introduction
중요한
of me.
자리에 초대해
And it is my
주신
great
주최
honor
측과
to
행사
join this
관계자분들께
important
다시 한번
conference.
진심으로
So thank
감사드리고요.
you so much
그리고 이
for
자리에 서게
having
된
me
것을
today.
깊은 영광으로
And this
생각하고
is my
있습니다.
pleasure to join you at this
저는
conference.
방금 소개에서 말씀드린 것처럼 10여 년간의 그 사이버 범죄 수사대 수사관으로 재직을 하면서
I
사이버
have been
공격자들을
working as a
추적하고
cybercrime
분석하는
investigator
업무를
for about a
담당했었고요.
decade.
그리고 이제
So I've been hunting
금융회사에서
and
보안
following
쪽
cybercrime
기획과
attackers,
매니지먼트를
and for
담당했었습니다. 그리고 지금
financial
현재는
companies, I
해양 사이버 보안
work for
스타트업인
cybersecurity
TSL의
management,
컴퍼니를
and
운영하고
now
있습니다.
I'm running
앞선
DS lab.
연사님들의 중요한 사이버 보안
Previous
이슈들에 대해서
speakers raised
잘
important
들었고요.
issues
훌륭한
regarding
발표에
cybersecurity.
이어서 또 발표하게 돼서 부담이
So
크지만
I think
전 조금 더
I have a
다른
very big
시각에서
shoes to fill right after
말씀드리도록
these
하겠습니다.
wonderful speakers.
제가 발표하고자 하는 주제는 마리타임
Today,
산업 해양 사이버
going to talk
보안에
about
대한
A look
부분들이고요.
inside the
제가
cybersecurity
준비한
threats in the maritime
자료는
industry.
디지털화에 따른 사이버 보안의 영향,
I'm going to talk about
몇 가지 사례에 대해서
digitalization and
말씀드리고
cybersecurity. I'm
사이버
going to
보안
give you
관리를
some
위한
cases,
방안과 선박의
and
사이버
I'd like to
위협
talk about
그리고
cyber risk
저희가
management
바라보고 있는
as well.
관점에 대해서
And then
말씀드리도록 하겠습니다.
I will wrap this up by providing our
먼저
perspective.
자동차 산업이 디지털화되면서 많은 사이버 보안 이슈들을 겪어왔습니다.
Auto
최근에
industry has been
자동차에는 많은
digitalized,
디지털
and
장비들이
as a
탑재되고
result,
있는데요.
auto companies and automakers have
운행 제어
been exposed
시스템,
to cyber
인포테인먼트
attacks.
시스템 또는 원격 관리 시스템과
Driving
같은
control system
여러 가지
and
디지털
infotainment
장치가
system and
자동차에
other digital
탑재되기
systems
시작했습니다.
have been mounted on cars.
이에 따라 자동차 산업에서는 많은
And the
사이버
auto
보안
industry
이슈들을 겪어왔는데요.
has experienced
대표적으로는
numerous
왼쪽에
cyber
그리는 보시는
attacks. As you can
왼쪽의
see on the
그림과
left
같이
side of the
어떤
slide,
운전자의 사용자 정보
examples
누출과
include
관련된 부분들,
leakage of
자동차
personal
도난
data
또는
or car
원격에서 자동차를 훔치는 부분과
or
같은
remote theft of
사고들이
cars,
발생을 했었습니다.
and they are major
이로
examples,
인해서
key examples
어떤
of
사이버
cyber
보안의
attacks
이슈로 인해서
that the
자동차
car industry is
업계는
exposed to.
리콜을 단행할 수밖에
And the
없었고요.
consequence
리콜로
includes
인해서
recall.
제조사들은 큰 손실과 어떤
Recall results
비용의
in financial
어떤
damage,
낭비와 같은 어떤 피해를
and it
입은 바가
costs
있습니다.
automakers tremendous
이에
amount of
따라서
money.
자동차 산업은 2024년부터 생산되는
So the
모든
auto industry
자동차에는
made it
사이버
clear
보안이 의무적으로 필요한
that
조치가 시행될
cars
예정이고요. 이러한
will
조치들은
be
자동차 산업의 새로운
obligated to
혁명을
apply
불러올
the
것이라고
new
전망하고
standard
있습니다.
if they are produced from July 2024. And this will
2021년에
we
발생한
expect
미국에서
transform the entire
발생한
landscape of the
사이버
car
사고를
industry.
살펴보면
Let's take a
우리에게
look at
굉장한
a cyber
메시지를
attack that
던져주고
happened in
있습니다.
February 2021 in the States.
이 사고에서는 사이버
We
공격자가
can have a
유출된
lesson learned
정보와
from the
허가되지 않은
cyber
접근으로
incident.
시스템을
The cyber
해킹했던
attackers used
사례인데요.
liquid information
이때
and
보면
unauthorized remote
독극물
access.
수준의
As you can see at the bottom of the
화학
page,
약품을 100배 정도로
the
가속해서
attackers
자칫
increased the
잘못하면
toxic
시민들에게 큰
chemical
피해가 입힐 수도 있는 사건이
pH of
발생했었습니다.
the toxic chemical by 100
이
times.
사건은 사이버 사고로
It could
인해서
cause
물리적인
some lives.
피해가 발생할 수
And this
있다는
cyber
지난 몇
incident
가지
reminds
사례를
us
다시 한번
of
되새겨주고
how cyber
있는데요.
attack, how dangerous cyber
해양
attacks can be.
영역에서도 중요한 데이터가 사이버 공격자에 의해서
An important data
판매되거나
in the maritime sector
최근에
can be
아시아 영역의
up for
해양
sale
컴퍼니들이
on the
해킹을
dark
당하는
web,
사건들이
and
증가하면서
some Asian
우리는 이에
shipping
대한
companies
우려를
have
더 할 필요가 있습니다.
higher level of exposure in the cyberspace.
2019년
In
미국 해양
2019,
경비대에서는
USCG
선박의 사이버 보안 취약상에 대한 경고를 한 바 있습니다.
issued marine safety alert.
이 경고는 MITM이라고 불리우는
And the
공격에
alert
대한 경고였었는데요.
was for what we call MITM.
선주사와 선박 사이에 위치한 공격자가
And there is an attacker between
두 개의
a ship
조직을
owner
모두
and ship,
속이면서 악성
and the
코드를
attacker
배달했던 사고가 발생했었습니다.
manipulated both parties and fooled both parties.
이러한 사이버 사고에서의 어떤 정보의 조각들은
And
공격자의
pieces of
이메일 주소,
information in cyber
공격자의
attacks
IP 주소,
include IP,
악성 코드의 특성과 정보 등을
and
담고
malicious
있을 수
code
있습니다.
of the attackers.
이런 것들은 사이버 위협 인텔리전스라고 정의할 수 있습니다.
And this can be defined as cyber threat intelligence.
우리는 사이버 보안 위험 관리를 요구받고 있습니다.
We are required to have cyber
사이버
risk
보안 위험
management
관리에서는 효율적인 사이버 보안 관리가 필요한데요.
to
그에 대한 세
respond
가지
to cyber
요소는
risks.
자산,
Efficient method is needed,
위협,
and there are three elements
취약성,
here. They are
이 세
assets,
가지 요소입니다.
threats, and vulnerabilities.
자산은 컴퓨터 베이스의 시스템으로 정의가 되고
By
있고요.
asset, we mean
위협은
computer-based system.
의도되지 않은 위협과 의도하지
Threats
않은
can be
위협
divided
두 가지로
into
분류할 수
intentional
있고
threats and
우리는
unintentional
이런
threats.
위협에 대한 많은 데이터베이스가 있을수록
The
위험
more
관리를
database we
효과적이고
have,
효율적으로
the
진행할 수
more
있습니다.
effectively and efficiently we can respond to cyber
또한
attacks.
취약성에 대한 정보도 매우
It is very
중요한데요.
important to have
저희의
information
연구에서는
on
선박의
vulnerabilities.
기자재
Our
시스템에서
research
알려진
include
취약성들 146개 이상이
vulnerabilities.
확인되었습니다.
We already have 140
이러한 알려진
vulnerabilities on
취약성들은
ship. in
공격자의
our
공격
project and
시간과
research.
공격 노력을
known
단축시킬 수 있기 때문에
Vulnerabilities can reduce
굉장히
time and efforts of
신속한 조치가
attackers.
필요한
So
항목이라고
known
생각하고
vulnerabilities
있습니다.
require rapid measures, rapid
우리가 또한
solutions.
관리해야 되는 것들은 사이버
There are
위협에
other
대한
things we need to
부분입니다.
manage, which is
위협을
related to cyber
식별하고
threats. We
개선하는
have to identify
작업들이 위험
cyber
관리의
threats,
활동의 일부입니다.
and this is a part of risk management
우리가 알고
activities.
있는 자산,
We have
규정,
known assets,
법률,
known
취약성 등은
regulations, and laws,
통제할 수 있고 예측할
and
수 있습니다.
vulnerabilities. They can be predicted
하지만
and they can be controlled.
알려지지 않은
They are in
자산,
our control.
휴먼 에러,
But human errors,
악성 코드에
unknown
대한
assets,
공격 등은
and
예측할 수
attacks by
없고 제어할 수
malware
없습니다.
or malicious intent cannot be predicted, or they are out of our control.
사이버 위험 관리를 위해서는 사이버 요구사항에
For
대한
cyber
명확한 이해가
risk
필요한데요.
management, we need to
아약스
have a
룰을
clear
기준으로
understanding
했을
of
때
requirements.
다양한 해양 사이버 보안 요구사항들이 전개되고
And
있습니다.
there have been many requirements for cybersecurity, as you can see, the IAX regulation and requirements,
리스트,
IMO, IAX,
BIMCO,
BIMCO.
다양한 국가와 다양한 기관에서 사이버 보안
Many
규정을
countries and many
제시하고 있기
organizations
때문에
have published and released
선주사와 조선사,
cybersecurity
그리고 기자재
regulations
기업들은
applicable to
이 모두를
ships.
만족시키기
So
어렵습니다.
it's very difficult for ship owners and shipping companies to meet all these requirements and
선박의 사이버
regulations.
위협에 대해서
Let me
말씀드리고자 하는데요.
briefly tell you cybersecurity.
선박의 디지털화로 인해서 많은 연결 지점이
As we are
만들어졌습니다.
more digitalization,
한 연구
we are seeing
결과에
more
따르면
connection
오피스룸에
points.
있는
According to
컴퓨터
research,
92.3%는 인터넷과 연결되어 있고
92.3% of office computers have
선상
internet
시스템의
access,
통합 제어 시스템은 14.3%가 인터넷에
and
연결되어 있다고
integrated
합니다.
control systems and emission monitoring
특히
systems
주목할
are high
것은
internet
이들
connection
시스템의
with
84.6%는 원격에서
14.3%.
관리되고 있다는 점입니다.
And here what we need to understand is that 84%
이러한 모든
of
연결
the
지점은
systems are
공격자가
controlled
접근
remotely.
가능한 통로,
This gives easy access to
즉,
attackers.
공격
In
표면으로
other words,
정의할 수 있습니다.
these access points can be defined as attack surfaces.
우리의 지난 연구에서는
our
선박과
last
해양 산업을
research, we
타켓으로 한 사이버
defined
공격자들에 대해 연구해 왔습니다.
Cyber attackers
이
targeting ships.
공격자들의 첫 번째 단계는 사이버 정찰
The first
활동이었습니다.
step they took was reconnaissance.
사이버 정찰 활동을 통해서 선원에 대한 정보, 선박에 대한 정보,
Through
선주에
reconnaissance,
대한
they
정보, 기자재에 대한 정보,
stole
다양한 공격 표면에 대한
information on
정보를
the ship
정찰하고
owners or
있었습니다.
the crew.
최근의 랜섬웨어 공격 조직들은
The
시스템을
ransomware
파괴하고
attacking
돈을 요구하는 것을
organizations in
떠나서
recent years, they not only ask for ransom,
회사의 내부 정보를
but
탈취하고 인터넷에 공개하는 형태를 띠고 있습니다.
steal internal
그
information
내부
of
정보,
a company
해양
and
기업의 그 내부
release that
정보에는
in public.
선박과 관련된 내부 시스템 정보,
Online.
민감한 정보들도
And those
포함되어
information,
있습니다.
this information includes very sensitive data and information to the ship owners.
이러한 공격 표면들은 모든 연결
And
가능한
attack
지점으로
surfaces,
설명될 수 있는데요.
surfaces
공격자들은 연결성이 높고 이니셔티브가
points.
높고 낮은 노력과 해킹에 성공할 수 있는 빠른 시간이 가능해야 타겟을 선정합니다.
Decided their targets
가장
based on
좋은 사이버 보안의
accessibility
가장
and
좋은
initiative.
방법은
and
이러한
effort and time.
공격 표면을
So the best way
감소시키는 것입니다.
to mitigate cybersecurity risks is to reduce the
미국 해군
attack
사이버
surface.
사령부에서도 사이버 보안의 첫 번째 단계는 공격 표면을
The
감소시키는
US
것으로부터
Naval
시작한다라고
Headquarters
주장하고 있습니다.
also said it starts with physical security, system
우리의 연구에서는
isolation, and
선박
reducing
공격 표면이
attack
증가할수록
surface that adversaries can
또한
touch.
선박의
Our
공격
research
표면에
showed
관련된 정보가 증가할수록 사이버 위험이 증가하는 것으로
Cybersecurity risk
나타났습니다.
increases as according
아래쪽
to
오른쪽
the
표를
level of
보시면
attack surfaces.
급격히
As you
증가한
can see
공격
on
표면에
the
대한
graph,
정보들이 발생했고 그
We
이후
had we have
해킹된
this steep
시스템에
slope,
대한 사례를 보여주고 있습니다.
and this is an example of hacking.
우리는 이러한
systems.
공격 표면에 대한 감소,
So
공격
we have
표면에
to work on
대한 위협을
reducing attack
제거할 필요가
surfaces,
있습니다.
and ideally we have to get rid of attack surfaces.
선박 사이버 보안은 굉장히 다양한 분야의 전문 지식과 기술이
Cybersecurity
요구됩니다.
for ships require very sophisticated skills and
예를
knowledge of
들면
many different
아약스
domains.
룰에서
For example,
룰에 따르면
according to
민감한 컴퓨터 베이스의 시스템은 시큐리티 존에
sensitive
설치되어야 하고
CBS
이
need to be
존에는
installed in
강화된
the
접근
security
통제가
zone,
필요하다라고 설명하고 있습니다.
and more robust
여기에서는
access
사이버 보안의
controls are
지식뿐만이
required for the
아니라
security zone. This
물리적 보안에 대한
requires
전문
knowledge
지식과
of
기술이 함께
cybersecurity
요구됩니다.
and physical security.
또한 모빌리티 보안에 대한 특성과 시설 보안에
need to
대한
also
특성도
understand
함께 요구되는 분야입니다.
Mobility and system nature. of
그래서 저희의
systems.
관점은 두
This is
가지로
our
설명드릴 수 있습니다.
perspectives. We have
먼저 첫
two
번째로는 Security by
perspectives to suggest.
디자인인데요.
We want to suggest security by design.
선박을 설계할
respond to
때부터
cybersecurity
보안을
issues.
고려해서 사이버 보안을 내재화시킨
Ships should be
절차가 필요하다라는
constructed with
것입니다.
security by design.
사이버 공격은 진화되고 있고
Cyber
굉장히
attacks
다양하기
are
때문에
evolving, and there are different types of cyber
하나의
attacks.
지점을 고친다고 모든 것들을 다 막을 수는
So it
없습니다.
doesn't always necessarily mean
또한
that
사이버 공격은
if you
특성화되어
fix one
있고 특정
point,
상황에서 발생하기 때문에 그것을
you can
예측하고
fix problems of all of the rest,
예방하기는
all the rest
굉장히
of the
어렵습니다.
points. It's very difficult to predict and
그렇기
prevent the
때문에
cyber
해양
attacks.
산업과 선박에 특화된
So
기술과
we need
보안 장치가 필요한 것입니다.
technologies and security measures specific to ships.
저희 DSLab 컴퍼니는 지난 몇
My
년간
company,
대우조선
DS
해양과
Lab,
이러한
has been
문제를
working
해결하기
with
위해서
DSME
선박의 사이버
to
디자인 모델을
solve these cybersecurity
개발하고
issues. We
선박의 사이버 보안
have developed
아키텍처를
a
개발해 왔습니다.
cybersecurity design model as well as cybersecurity architecture
선박의 건조 라이프
that will conform
사이클에
to ships
맞춰서
according to the life cycle of
사이버 보안에
construction.
대한 설계와 평가와 측정이 가능한 모델입니다.
Have been providing the services
그리고
for
또한 선박 사이버
design
보안
and
아키텍처는
evaluation of shipbuilding.
확장성과 유용성을 가지고 있고
This architecture
다양한
can be
선종과
scalable.
다양한 요구 사항을
It's very
수용할 수 있도록
flexible,
설계되었고
and it is designed
현재도
to
현재도
accommodate
진화하고
different
있습니다.
requirements. And this architecture is currently
이 선박 사이버 보안
evolving.
아키텍처는
and ship
사이버
cybersecurity
공격자로부터
architecture
강력한
we
보호 대책을
developed
제시하고
is providing robust security measures for
사이버
ship owners,
보건력을 갖추기 위해서 개발되었습니다.
and it was developed to provide cyber resilience.
두 번째 사항으로는 사이버 보안
Our second
위협에 대한
perspective
최소화입니다.
About minimizing cyber risk.
해양 산업에 특화된 사이버 보안 위협 인텔리전스가 필요한데요.
I think there is a need for cyber threat
2020년
intelligence
미국에서는 해양
specific
사이버
to the
보안
maritime industry.
위협
In
인텔리전스에
2020,
대해서 그
US
필요성과
released the
개발 방향에
maritime
대해서
cybersecurity
언급한 바
plan.
있습니다.
This
미국
includes the
국토안보부와
path that the maritime industry should go
수사기관
forward
위주로
to
현재
ensure
개발이 진행되고
cybersecurity
있고
on ships. and this is currently
사이버 보건력을 갖추기 위한
under
최소한의
development.
조치로 생각하고 있습니다.
And this is the minimal
이러한 사이버 위협
amount of
인텔리전스는
measures to
선제적인
ensure
보호 대책을
cybersecurity.
수립하고
And this will
사고를
allow
예방하는
us
데 기여할 것으로
to come up
생각하고
with
있습니다.
preventative measures and contribute to reducing cyber attacks
선박의
and
공격
incidents.
표면에 대한 모니터링과 위협 식별이 중요합니다.
It is very important to identify and
우리는 지난 몇
monitor
년간
cyber threats on ships. For the past few years,
해양 사이버 위협 인텔리전스 시스템을 개발하고 있었습니다. 이 프로젝트
we
이름은
have developed
CPS-TI
cyber threat intelligence
사이버 터틀십
project,
프로젝트로
and this
명명하고
project is
있습니다.
named Cyber Total Ship Threat
이것은
Intelligence.
해양 산업에 특화된 사이버 위협 인텔리전스입니다.
This is your cyber threat intelligence specific to the
선박과
maritime industry.
선박 이해 관계자들,
Ships
공급망에
and
관련된
all
공격
stakeholders
표면
and
위협을
supply
모니터링하고
chain
감시합니다.
related attack surfaces can be monitored under the project.
능동적인 사이버 위협 인텔리전스 모델은
And this is
사고 예방과 피해
active cyber threat
확산에
intelligence
기여할
model.
것으로 생각하고
We believe
있습니다.
this will contribute to prevent
저희
cyber
DSL의
attacks and
컴퍼니는
incidents on
고려대학교,
ships.
대우조선
DS Lab
해양,
has been
사이버 보안
working with
업체들과
Korea
함께 이
University
프로젝트를
and
진행하고
Daewoo
있습니다.
Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering
저희는
for this
지금까지
project.
많은 데이터와
We have accumulated
많은 위협 데이터를
massive
데이터를
amount of data,
식별하면서
and we have
사고
identified
예방과
threat
개연성이 있는
data
것들을
as well,
관련 기업에
and we
통보하고
provided
있습니다.
information about those information and that
이것들은
data
위협을 식별하고
to
CBS를 식별하고
shipping companies.
공격
And the
표면에
data
대한
can be
모니터링을 통해서
used to identify
미티기
potential
완화
cyber
대책을
attacks
제시하는
and
것이 주요
incidents.
기능입니다. 네, 다시 한번
Once again,
이 자리에 참석해 주신 귀빈 여러분과 이 발표를 하게
thank you so
만들어
much for
주신
having me
주식에
today,
감사드리고요.
and I'd like to thank the organizer
여기까지
of the
해서 제
conference
발표는
for
마치도록
inviting me
하겠습니다.
to the
감사합니다.
conference today. This is all I have. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. So we have heard from Mr. Park talking about cybersecurity in mass systems. Mr. Richards talked about the CRM's practice for cybersecurity code and practice for vendors. And so finally, Dr. Yo talked about the risks that we have in the maritime environment. So I would like to ask, are there any questions? Oh, yeah. Michael Bergman.
Thank you very much. We heard a lot about cybersecurity on the ships. Maritime is more than ships. Can some of you perhaps talk about aspects of cybersecurity on shore systems like VTS systems and on the connectivity between shore and ship to increase cybersecurity on ships?
Mr. Park?
제가 답변을 하겠습니다.
Okay, let me
일단
answer the question.
한국선거에서는 일단 현재
Korean register.
선박 자체도 있지만 아까 보셨던 회사, 즉 예를 들자면 선박을 리모트로
For example,
데이터를 바꿔하는 그 선사에 대한 사이버 보안 인증을 하고 있고
It's
아까
providing
말씀드렸던
certificate for
송과 신 매니지먼트, 그다음에 우리나라 HMM
data
관련해서도
or
사이버
cybersecurity
보안 인증을 했습니다.
between
일단
ships and
처음에 선박은 선사
First.
혹은 육상 시스템의 자산의 일환으로 본다면
if you think
육상
a ship
시스템에
is a
대한
part of an
먼저
asset
사이버
of
보안을
onshore
하고
systems,
다음에
cybersecurity
그
should be
육상
ensured
사이버
for the
보안의 정책을
shore
그대로
system first,
선박에 적용.
and the
그다음에
same cybersecurity
선박에
system
필요한
applied
부분만
to
조금 더
the
포괄해서
onshore
하는
system should be
방식으로
applied
했었고요.
to the
하고
ship,
있습니다.
but with
현재
added
오늘
or extra
발표에서는 특별하게
functions.
선박에만 집중해서
In today's
설명을
presentation, I
드렸는데
focused
사이버
on
보안은
ships
그런
only,
전체
but by
시스템에서
cybersecurity,
사이버
we are
보안이
referring to the
이루어지도록 하고
whole
있고 한 가지
cybersecurity
조금
applicable
예를
to the
들자면
whole system, including
선박에서
onshore systems. And let me give you an example.
특정 IP는
A specific
우리
IP that is communicated
선사의
on
IP
board
혹은 이내비게이션이라고 한다면 이내비게이션 서비스를
is
해주는
related to ship
육상
owners'
센터의
IP,
IP와 포트만에 대한 데이터를 주고받을 수 있도록
and it
하는
can be
것이 첫
exchanged
번째.
with
두 번째,
IP of an onshore
관련된
system.
육상에서 꼭 필요한 부분은 특정 암호화를 통해서 사이버
And if
보안을
a
하는 그런
specific
부분에
IP
대해서
is required for
저희가
our
레커멘드하고
onshore
사이버 보안
system,
인증을 하고
encoding
있습니다.
and encryption is required. That is our recommendation for onshore system cybersecurity.
Thank you. Any other questions? In the meanwhile, I can ask Dr. Yo, during your analysis that you did of the maritime environment, did you have the opportunity to identify the malicious actors that are posing the largest risk to the security?
네, 그 선박을 타겟으로 한 사이버 공격 조직은
Yes,
현재 존재하는 것으로 알려져
there
있고요.
is a cyber attack
그러한 공격
group
조직들은
only
대부분
targeting
국가가 배후에 있는 것으로
and most of
확인되고
the
있습니다.
time state actors are
국가의 지원을
behind those
받는
attacks.
사이버 공격
So
부대들이
state-funded and
선박
state-supported
화물선이나
cyber armies or
해양
cyber
산업을
groups
집중적으로
are
공격하고
targeting
있다라고 알려져
mostly
있습니다.
the maritime industry and ship
어제
owners
또
and shipping
언론
companies.
보도에 그와
Yesterday, we
관련된
had
내용이
an
있는데요.
article in newspaper
그러한 조직들은
in
주로
the
이제
media,
중동에서
and
활동을
those
하고 있는 것으로
cyber
알려져
attack groups
있습니다.
are concentrated in the Middle East, according to the news article.
Thank you very much. So that definitely means that we should be even more aware of cybersecurity, because that is the hard ones to defend against. Mr. Richards, I was thinking in your sort of work with the risk code and practice, have you possibility to encourage other companies to work with testing, so you ensure the software is living up to your code of practice?
So our code of practice is, let's say, a voluntary opt-in. We have no functionality to police it. But in terms of software updating, that would be more covered by the BIMCO CRM software maintenance one, or the ISO. Yeah, that'd be covered better by the ISO 24060 standard to make sure it's correct. But if the work that's going on in the industry group goes forward, then it may come out as an IMO recommendation, at which point then it gets mandated.
Thank you. So, Mr. Park, I was thinking, you have this in your network. The network was divided into zones. We will see in the future that there will be more IoT devices, and you mentioned also in your talk about crew devices on the ship. So these are likely not secured against risks as much. Do you see a possibility with any problems regarding distributed denial of service attacks on networks? So basically shutting off a ship from communication this way, and how would you mitigate that in your designs?
네, 질문 감사드리고요.
Thank you for the question.
다행히
Fortunately,
일단 이 부분에 그러니까 IoT 장비에 대한
regarding IoT equipment, cybersecurity for IoT. Yes, we are going to have more sensors on ships, so we have to ensure cybersecurity for those increased number of IoT systems. We are taking them seriously, so we want to come up with a solution as well. We can refer to cybersecurity in the auto industry. Fortunately, we had a meeting with an automaker yesterday for cybersecurity. There are sensors on cars, and Dr. Joe said attack surface, an interface and wireless system. We have to analyze them first to ensure cybersecurity of sensors. If we have an increased number of sensors, as somebody mentioned, edge computer, relatively, ships have fewer number of sensors on board. If we refer to factors and plans, I think we can come up with right solutions for cybersecurity of IoT systems and sensors. In the maritime industry, KR has, for the maritime industry and ship, KR has recognized different variations and variables. So basically, we are referring to other companies, other industries, and try to benchmark and learn a lesson from other industries. And we also have strengths traditionally. So if we can integrate our capabilities and our lesson to learn from other industries, I think we can come up with the right answer. And we are also collaborating with other industries for solutions.
Thank you very much. So I know in the auto industry, there is a company doing property-based testing, kind of randomized testing in order to ensure devices on the car network are behaving correctly and securely. So perhaps that is encourage companies within the maritime sector to look into the same. Any other questions from the floor? I still think we have some time. Yes, Mr. Andreas.
Yes, hello, and thank you to all. Well, in IALA, we run also the workshop on cybersecurity for atom providers and for shore authority. It was last year in a virtual mode. And we are happily aligned with your conclusion, Dr. Hyun, for instance, to incorporate in the design phase cybersecurity means. But also we highlighted that there is a real importance on training the operators, in this case, Atom and VTS operator on cybersecurity. No? I was just wondering if CIRM, the Korean Register, or DS Lab has some guidance, best practices for mariners in this case, or VTS operator, or any kind of marine operator. Thank you.
답변을 제가 하게 돼서.
Okay, is it okay if I answer the question? For example, DNV and Lloyd and Korean Register, all of us have a training program for cybersecurity. Korean Register, we are working with our suppliers. We are providing our suppliers and equipment manufacturers with in-person training and online training, like twice a year in Korea. As somebody mentioned, Korean Register made a presentation in IALA's conference last year. I didn't mention today, but for mariners,
대양에서 위성이 잘 안 된 상황에서도 아이패드라든지
we provided training on
교육을 할 수 있는 시험을 볼 수 있는 시스템까지 갖춰서
iPad and mobile devices.
예정에 있습니다.
We will provide a mobile training for crew and mariners next year.
Thank you. So I don't see any more questions, so let's thank Mr. Park, Mr. Richards, and Dr. Yu again for their contributions.
And once again, please join me in thanking our moderator as well as all of our panel discussants one more time. Thank you very much. And yes, you may now return to your seats. Thank you very much. 네, 자리로 모시겠습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you. That concludes our session once again. And we will now break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen. That was our cyber security session. Thank you once again for the fruitful discussions as well as all of the questions that you posed. I hope that you found it fruitful and worthwhile. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we will break for lunch until 2:30 p.m. and lunch will be provided in the luncheon room right next door. So please do enjoy your lunch. And in the meantime, when we do come back and resume at 2:30, we will start off with a lucky draw raffle. So for those of you who haven't yet sent in your business cards for the lucky draw, please remember to do so because we also have another lucky draw. Test your luck at another round of the Bluetooth earphones today. And of course, we have the exhibition in the lobby. So if you finish lunch a little bit early, please feel free to take a tour as well. With that, I leave you to enjoy your lunch and I'll see you at 2:30. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to start our session 5, which will be held under the theme Digital at Sea Conference and Promotion of E-Navigation. I believe that it will be a great session and theme to round out our final session. So we will bring together 3 presenters and we'll have a discussion as well as a Q&A at the very end. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask and we will get a microphone to you. And also leave your questions as for our online guests onto our conference chat site. The Digital at Sea Conference, the concept itself, will convene in Copenhagen in just a few months. I believe it is in February in Copenhagen. And I believe that this time around, it will be a great session to discuss a few months ahead what that will mean as well. So for those of you who are looking ahead for that, we have a great moderator who will lead us through that session. So for our moderator, we have Mr. Jamie Alvarez, the technical officer of IALA, who will help us through. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
So thank you very much. I would say thank you for these 2 days of technical session, which I believe has been extremely fruitful for everybody. And after listening to the number of speakers and to this brilliant presentation, 2 main ideas come to my mind. Indeed, the first one is the high expertise across the world. The Digital at Sea initiative put together on the same room, at the end on the same room after a couple of years. And in this collaborative and harmonized goal-based view, no? And the second one is the vast and massive work we have ahead. No? And I think to answering to both questions and to both ideas, we have this session, no? Which is the last but not least, on this digitalization, no? Sustainability, but also international collaboration, and I would like to emphasize the synergies between public and private initiative. No? And I would like to present Malene Loftager from the Danish Maritime Authority. Mrs. Malene is the current director of Maritime Regulation and Legal Affairs in the Danish Maritime Authority. She has a vast background on different ministries and agencies in the Danish government. And she will introduce the Digital at Sea International Conference. So, Malen, it's your turn.
So, thank you. First of all, allow me to say hi to you all and a warm thanks to the Korean Ministry of Ocean and Fisheries for inviting us here today. And thank you, Jamie, for your kind introduction. This is my first Digital at Sea conference, and I must say that I'm very inspired and delighted to be able to invite you all to Copenhagen in February to follow up on this interesting debate. We will soon announce the date, but allow me to give you a small taste of what you can expect in February when we would like to invite you to Copenhagen to the International Digital at Sea Conference. If you could start the video, thank you.
The Danish Maritime Authority is delighted to announce next year's Digital at Sea International Conference in Copenhagen. Digitalization is key to increase efficiency, safety, and support a green transition in the maritime sector. The time is ripe to agree on concrete digital solutions that may alleviate burdens on the shipping industry and seafarers worldwide. That includes digital certificates and automated reporting of port calls. Digital solutions also have the potential to improve safety on board and foster new aids for navigation. However, a fundamental prerequisite is cybersecurity. The aim of the Digital at Sea International Conference 2023 will be to identify a way forward to implement common public digital solutions as well as ways to improve cybersecurity in the maritime sector. In a historical industrial building located with a view of the charming harbourfront of Copenhagen, we will set the scene for a highly interactive event. We look forward to welcoming you in Copenhagen in February 2023.
So I hope you will all join us in Copenhagen. As stated in the video, what we really want to do is very much in line with what Francis started off by stating. We want to focus on what is helpful rather than what is possible. We want to bring us further in terms of implementation of concrete solutions. So I think I'll leave it to that and allow time for discussions and questions. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all, hopefully, in Copenhagen 2023.
Thank you. I think we have online Ed Wendenland.
Hello, Jamie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect. So Ed Wonderland is the president of RTCM, where he managed the standard development and informational organization with the primary goal of enabling radio communication, navigational, and electronic systems to make the ocean and waterways safe, secure, and pollution-free. Ed provided the background of Ed is very vast, and he provided consulting services in the maritime domain with a focus on acquiring and establishing a remotely operated coastal station and central command center for monitoring and communicating with ships and boats. He also served in the U.S. Coast Guard for over 20 years with command experience both afloat and offshore in vessel traffic services, modernizing of the existing and establishment of new vessel traffic services, and he holds a computer science from the University of Central Florida and a bachelor in mathematics from the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. So, Ed, if you can introduce the Digital at Sea North America, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Let me share the screen. I think I need the host to give me permissions. There we go. Yes, I think everyone can see that, correct, Jamie? Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon and good morning to some, to Digital at Sea Asia Pacific. My name is Ed Wenland, and I am a member of the Digital at Sea North America Steering Committee and the president of RTCM. I would like to thank the Secretariat for the opportunity to provide an update on Digital at Sea North America. And I would also like to convey my regrets that I wasn't able to attend the conference in person. And I very much appreciate the accommodations made to support this presentation. And thank you for the kind introduction, Jamie. So let me provide an update on the 2022 conference, which we just held, and discuss the conclusions and recommendations from the North America conference, and provide a brief update on plans for the 2023 conference. So our 2022 conference was the 7th in the North American Regional Series, and the first one held under the Digital at Sea name. It was held live in Tampa, Florida on the 11th and 12th of May and was attended by over 60 delegates from government, industry, and academia, representing 7 countries. The theme, Navigating Our Digital Waterways, focused upon the broadening application of the maritime information environment that digitalization is creating, and the many initiatives that have advanced since the last North American conference of November 2019. There was much news to share, and we had an excellent array of speakers, and we're especially privileged to have the Secretary General of IALA, the Director of Marine Transportation for the U.S. Coast Guard, the Director for Marine Navigation Programs for the Canadian Coast Guard as speakers. In the next few slides, I would like to include the topics in each of the sessions, which are provided for your reference. I will move through them rather quickly and just highlight a few of the key points. First session provided updates on e-navigation plans and implementation strategies for North American countries, along with international initiatives by IALA and IHO. The delegates conveyed a strong desire to harmonize North American digitalization with the international initiatives, which we've heard as a theme throughout this conference as well. The second session included reports on specific initiatives and programs as shown here. Overall, the first 2 sessions were designed to evoke the questions, answers to the questions: what's happening now? What's your plan? When will it happen? What are the benefits, and how can partners contribute? Our sessions 3 through 6 focused on digitalization on the near horizon and today, with a full session on VDES, which ranged from its history to its potential application. This session combined representatives from both government and industry, including a report from a VDES service provider. Session 4 was dedicated to MSI in the US and Canada. The National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration and the Canada Hydrographic Service discussed developments related to S100 and other standards, their implementation plans in both the US and Canada. Session 5 also included presentations from 2 marine exchanges, the Marine Exchange of Alaska and the Marine Exchange of Los Angeles Long Beach. Alaska reported on its implementation of MSI over AIS, and LA Long Beach provided insight into how a queuing system was developed to reduce the number of vessels loitering offshore in anchorages and in drift zones. This problem was particularly acute as the US economy rebounded from the pandemic with a peak of 86 vessels loitering offshore in November of 2021. This was creating concerns for vessel safety, air quality, and wasteful fuel consumption as ships raced across the Pacific just to be the next in the queue. In other words, it was hurry up and wait. For those of you that ever served in the military, you're quite familiar with this. Implementation of the new queuing system, however, was extremely successful, with 0 container ships drifting or loitering by February of 2022. Session 6 included a presentation on mass from the perspective of the Classification Society, the American Bureau of Shipping, or ABS, and an automated weather observation system that resulted from a successful partnership of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, NOAA, and the U.S. Maritime Administration, also known as MARAD. The conference closed with a workshop that produced conclusions and recommendations from the conference. Together, the delegates produced 16 conclusions from the workshop. They're listed on the next 3 slides for those of you that may be interested. In the interest of time, I'll just highlight a few that I thought confirmed the high level of engagement, readiness, and enthusiasm for digitalization that we heard expressed throughout the conference. For instance, number 2, there remains a great deal of work to accomplish the goal of digitalization and vastly improved marine navigation capabilities and services. And 5, we can continue to learn useful lessons from mariners and shore authorities that have used existing communications and data to solve real-world problems. And I think our Marine Exchange of LA Long Beach example was a prime case study for this. Number 7, as new products are developed, harmonized portrayal will be critical to targeted service, delivery, and successful use by the mariner. And 11, it was clear that the success of our efforts will require a resilient PNT source with backup. And finally, 15, the maritime single window concept promises to provide many benefits in efficiency and accuracy of information required to be reported by ships for arrival and departure. Similarly, the workshop produced a set of 9 recommendations that were included in the conference report. I highlighted just a few that the delegates especially believed IALA could help raise the level of awareness through notification of its members and cognizant authorities. For instance, number 2, national authorities need to evaluate the new communication resources as part of their transition plans to determine the most viable products and services. And number 5, to encourage FAL member states to publish a national ship report registry that supplements the IMO compendium with report templates and their data elements that have not yet been included in the IMO compendium. And they also felt that IALA members should continue to coordinate the development of harmonized portrayal. So what's next? Our plans for the future are to make sure we deconflict the proximity of our event with the Digital at Sea Asia Pacific and the Digital at Sea International. primarily by planning sessions in the late spring. We plan to alternate conferences between the US and Canada and coordinate more closely with the Canadian Mariners Workshop, and then also seeking to introduce Mexico into the mix. For 2023, the tentative dates are the 12th through 18th of April, which may shift a week sooner or later. The location is Montreal, which has excellent access for those traveling internationally. And we expect to firm up the details no later than the 30th of September, and we'll publish them as soon as possible. I've included our contact information for anyone interested in more details about Digital at Sea North America or general inquiries about RTCM. Again, I'd like to thank the Secretariat and panel members for including Digital at Sea North America in this session. And with that, pass the session back to our host.
Thank you. We will let the question for the end of the session. Next speaker, Han-Jin Lee, who has been presenting yesterday in the first session, will provide some insights on the introduction of e-navigation services. As you know, Han-Jin Lee has been serving as the Vice President of KRISO since 2021. And he was the General Project Manager of the Smart Navigation Project. He holds a PhD in Naval Architecture and Ocean Engineering from Seoul National University in Korea. So, Han-Jin Lee, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to present the introduction of Korean navigation service. As many of you may already know, let me introduce you to our project, Smart Navigation Project again. The Smart Navigation Project is the name of the navigation project in Korea. This presentation is about the record for the past year. Okay. The Korean government invested about $100 million from 2016 to 2020 for the Smart Navigation Project. The Smart Navigation Project team built an information service system to provide maritime safety information and established the communication infrastructure. Using this achievement, the Korean government, the Ministry of Ocean and Fisheries, started providing maritime safety services to ship operators in February 2021. This system is run by the MOF. Today, on behalf of the MOF, I would like to introduce the operation status of smart navigation. This table shows the service that the smart navigation provides. The first is the monitoring service to prevent direct accidents, such as collision or grounding. The service sends a warning to the ship of high accident risk. The second is the onboard monitoring service, such as fire detection. Its target is passenger ships of Korean nationality. The third is service that provides an optimal safety route plan. And the fourth is a service that provides electronic navigational chart to non-solar vessels, such as fishing boats. Service 5.1 provides helpful information for pilot and tugs, and the service 5.2 is a service for providing environment information such as weather, hydrographic data, and so on. The MOF started providing four services to Korean vessels in 2021, except for Service 2 and Service 5.1, which need a little more reviews. The MOF considered electronic charter system, ECS, to be used by small ships to display information. Also, it was allowed to use personal information devices such as smartphones or tablets if it was difficult even to have ECS. This chart shows the regional distribution of dedicated electronic chart system, ECS, that can receive smart navigation services. The data accumulated since February 2021, and currently about 3,000 units are distributed. About 200 units are installed per month for ships of 2 tons or more, and the MOF subsidizes 50% of the total cost. This graph shows the download and the registration status of the smart navigation dedicated app. Many leisure boats and very small fishing boats are receiving services using this app. App users must register to receive various services. So in the chart, the number of registered means the number of registered users in months. So far, there have been about 50,000 downloads with an average of about 2,500 downloads per month. The actual number of registered users is about 75% of the total number of downloads. Okay, from now on, let's take a look at the usage status of individual services. The first is the service one, navigation monitoring and assistance service. This graph shows the number of times ECS or app received safety messages from service one. It results from providing various safety information, such as warning of approach between ships, various obstacles, and notification of no-go areas. According to August 2022 usage status, ECS received about 65 million safety messages, and the app received about 2 million. ECS receives information while the fishing boat is moving, but the app can receive information only while the user is using it. So this difference appears to have created a gap in the number of messages received. The following is safe and optimal route planning service. It is impossible to take into account all sea conditions on the route offered by the service. So therefore, rather than providing route to all ships from the beginning, the MOF plans to provide service primarily for government ships and end users, and increase the number of target ships while observing the reactions and reliability of actual users in the future. Another function of service, when the user sends the route planned on the ship to the server, a service provides obstacle or environment information on the route. This function can be used by all ships currently. Okay. This graph shows the usage status of service 3, optimal route planning service. Since it is a service that only works when the user directly requests information, so there is no significant difference in the number of messages between ECS and the app. So far, the number of service requests per month is around 1,000. The following is a real-time electronic navigation chart distribution and the streaming service. In the case of ECS, it received electronic navigational chart as one chart directly, so stores it in the equipment and display it on the screen. On the other hand, the app receives and uses the tile map generated from the ENG data rather than the ENG data itself. So that is the chart streaming service. Therefore, in this figure, ECS indicates the number of ENG download attempts, and the red line shows the number of times the app used the streaming service. The dedicated ECS has a structure to check if there is an ENG update at regular intervals and automatically download it. So as long as the equipment is turned on, it continues to request service. The number of requests ranges from 100,000 to 700,000 per month. In my thought, the primary users are fishing boats, so there seems to be seasonal effects. The number of requests for the streaming service of the app is about 200,000. The rest is the maritime environment and safety information service. It is a service that provides weather information, tidal information, navigational warning around the ship, etc. This graph shows the service usage status of ECS and app. In the case of ECS, it is operated in the form of automatically requesting and receiving information about the surrounding environment when the vessel moves. In the case of the app, information is provided according to a user request. The number of ECS is about 2 million, while that of app is about 200,000 in August 2022. From now on, I will briefly introduce the MOF's future plan for smart navigation. The MOF first established a strategy to improve and expand the service it currently provides. Above all, the number of service users must increase. Various methods are being considered to increase the number of ships equipped with service terminals to 15,000 by 2027. The second is the utilization of non-operational services. These include Service 2 onboard monitoring service and the Service 5.1 pilot assistance service. The MOF is preparing to provide them. Lastly, the MOF plans to build a second center to provide uninterrupted services. And the MOF has a plan to provide new services in addition to the existing ones. Representative new services, maritime traffic broadcasting and telemedical maritime assistance service. These are attempts to actively utilize LTE maritime network, the high-speed communication network of the smart navigation system. The smart navigation system already has video call functions using LTE maritime. You can see the video call situation in the slide. The MOF plans to utilize this platform to discover new services actively. In addition, there is a plan to support maritime security activities that track unidentified ships based on checking the location of registered ships in real time. The following is a summary of what has been introduced so far. The Korean government started providing smart navigation service in 2021 and simultaneously started distributing dedicated ECS. In the case of dedicated ECS, the distribution project is currently underway for 2 tons or more fishing boats, and about 10% of them have been installed. Considering the current equipment installation status, I think more ships should participate in the service to obtain the effect of the smart navigation system and meaningful service usage statistics. Anyway, however, you can see that a lot of information is being delivered to the ships in my presentation. I think the system is already playing a part in maritime safety. It is expected that much more information on maritime safety will be obtained if the service utilization, the service users increases and the ship's operational pattern according to the seasonal and the regional effects can be considered. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Yeah.
So we have some room for question now. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, Secretary General.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentations, very interesting. And again, congratulations, Mr. Lee, for this fantastic project, Smart Navigation. I think we in IALA have followed all the way from 16 to 20, and it's now finished, I guess. It's operational, which is fantastic. And it's also a great investment, of course. You have used a lot of resources on this system. I'm just interested to know, how will you evaluate the success of the system, and how will you get feedback from the users? Will you evaluate times of how many accidents there are at sea from 16 to 20 and in the future, and how will you do that if you know that? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It is very difficult question about the reaction of users. Yeah. Looking at the rate of traffic accidents in Korea in 2021, the overall accident rate for ships with 3 tons of oil is 1.7%, whereas the accident rate for ships equipped with smart navigation terminal is 0.8. These figures show good result, but since this statistic is a simple comparison that does not consider the monthly distribution of dedicated terminals, so I think it is difficult to determine the direct impact. There is also another analysis. The ship that requested emergency rescue in the first half of 2021, in the case of ships that installed terminals, there is a case of 100 success in rescue through real-time location confirmation of the ship using the smart navigation system. In other words, it can be confirmed that there is a part that contributes to maritime safety. Anyway, there are many opinions about the smart navigation system in the real fields. Some fisherers, some members of fishing boats like this system, but some members that don't like this system because of the complicated situation about using this system. I think the proper analysis will be possible only when the more ships participate in the service and accumulate data over several years to enable annual analysis. Anyway, I think the first step is successful, but we need more time and more data to analyze the result of the effect of smart navigation system. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Mike.
Just so happens the microphone was close by, and thank you. My question is also for Mr. Lee, and the smart navigation device, the ECS. Could you give an indication about roughly what a unit costs, and if they are outside of LTE range, do they continue to operate for navigation, and do they also provide a communication, a voice or other communication functionality? Thanks. Sorry, a lot of questions.
Yeah. The correct cost is the role of government, but maybe the ECS and the LTE maritime terminals is one set. Yeah, so about the cost is about $3,000. Yeah, okay, about $3,000. But the Korean government faced 50% of the total cost. Yeah, and the dedicated ECS is able to connect the LTE maritime network in 100 kilometers, but outside of 100 kilometers, ECS cannot connect the LTE maritime network. So So if LTECS saves the ENG chart in that systems, but in that case, the ECS can use the ECS, but the connection is not able to outside of 100 kilometers. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions. One for Marlene, another for you, Ed. I know it's very early for you, but just 5 minutes more. First, why should we focus on the development of a global public digital solution?
I guess it's on already, yes. We believe that we should focus more on the implementation and actually get together to see what we can agree on. I was very much inspired by what Jeppe told us yesterday and several others on automated port calls and the opportunity we have to actually harmonize such port calls to make a difference for the shipping sector. Also in terms of cybersecurity, how can we actually progress in terms of regulation or standardization? What can we agree on and actually start applying? So that will be the general idea to see if we can progress on those topics.
Thank you. Just another one. Looking at Digital at Sea 2023 International, two main points. How would you be a more interactive conference, and having in mind the outcomes from previous discussion, how you will embrace this service consumer that we have been speaking about, like ship owners, liners, mariners, and so on, for the next conference?
I was also very inspired by that point that we really need to invite the ship owners and the shipping sector at large. So we will very much aim at introducing or trying to get them to participate and tell us what they need. And also we will try to focus on certain dilemmas that we are facing and to get a panel discussion on what to do, what is the way forward, how can we work on that, and then maybe also to have some group discussions on what's the future, what's next.
Thank you very much, Marlene. Ed, one question. We know that RTCM and Digital at Sea in North America, as well as IALA, are making efforts to involve, in your case, your southern neighbors countries as Mexico, Caribbean and South American countries on the world. And for those countries that maybe can take advantage of e-navigation solution, what are, according to you, what could be the perspective and benefits for them embracing from this early stage e-navigation project and testbeds?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think there's a lot to gain. As you can see, I think there's a number of Korea projects that I believe a lot of our members are learning from North America. And I think the same would project down to some of our southern neighbors that probably have not had ample resources to do this kind of research. So I believe if we can introduce them early on, that would help. There's quite a bit of trade in that region. It's getting busier all the time. And I'd also like to echo the sentiment of bringing some more of the professional mariners into the conference. It's often quite challenging. There's a little bit of fear from their side that electronic means no people involved, but I think we have to get past that and help them understand that, I think we're a long way from mass, and then hopefully we can take the technology and turn it towards improving the safety and taking some of the menial tasks off of the off of the Mariner and put them more in a quality control role. So that's some of the challenges we see. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. So I think if there are not more questions for, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Not question, but I'd like to make an information on the communication among Dr. Lee and Mr. McKinley regarding the Korean S-100 issues, especially the coverage from the coastline. Yeah, that is correct. Dr. Lee says the coverage is around 100 kilometers from the coastline. Yeah, that is right, because that is a LTE communication. But the Korean S-100 issues is available to be connected with other communication network, such as the VDS or satellite-based VDS. So for the time being, the 100 kilometers is limited to these issues. But in the future, as you know, the IMO modified the relevant regulation regarding the VDS and installed the shore-based VDS communication network in Korean coastline. Or if there is the satellite-based VDS communication service, it could be connected each other because they are all based on the S-100 and the data model designated according to the relevant international instrument from the ITC and IALA and also IMO. So that is why I'm interventions. So in near future, if the relevant digital communication further provided, these issues is to be connected to expand the coverage through the global size the navigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have my last question to your comment, actually. Will it be only based to cover more than 100 kilometers? Just if IMO introduce in the requirements of equipment requirements, VDS or in
Yes, right. According to the SOLAS, maybe I understand that the SOLAS 2024 is going to modify and adapt it regarding the VDS. And also the ITU and WRC is going to set up the requirement of the satellite-based VDS. For the time being, even though the VDS communication network introduced into the coastline, the coverage is only around 100 kilometers from the coastline, shore-based network. But because of the satellite-based VDS, we can use it the global scale communication network in the future.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. More questions? Yes, Professor.
Thank you. Just a small addition to Mr. Hong's comments. As you heard yesterday's presentation, we are developing the MMTP protocol that uses the IP network and non-IP network. That means once we have MMTP, we can make use of any kind of communication network. Fortunately and intentionally, and smart navigation service is based on the MMS. So it just uses MRN and it uses MMS. That is the basis of the MMTP. So there is no technical barriers. There will be no technical barriers in using multiple communication channels at once. So in that case, I think the coverage will not be a problem. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Michael.
Yes, and also in addition, you may remember yesterday the presentation from Stanula, from Stefan Pielmeier, where he also was talking about their new satellite, which is being launched, which will be worldwide coverage for VDES, using satellite VDES. So I think those data exchanges, as Sanbei was mentioning and as Chin was mentioning, are starting to be seen more and more, and communication will get more easier to be used in shipping. Thank you.
Yes, one question.
Thank you. I just kind of want to ask one thing to Dr. Lee regarding the Korean smart navigation services. If I'm not incorrect, so your S100, the data set is based on the S100 edition 4. But the IHO is currently, we are processing to produce S100 edition 5, which will be more enhanced structure for the S100 dataset. So if it is, so that I'm not sure that the Korean smart your system may have some process to upgrade your software in S100 ECS system, or how you could maybe replace or update in the end user services. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. The firmware of ECS software can be upgraded through air, using the LTE maritime network. So the ECS makers can upgrade their system from S100 edition 4 to edition 5 if they develop the new systems by using LTE maritime network. But I think they have many times to upgrade all systems in C. Yeah, but it is possible. Yeah, it is possible.
Okay, I think we have spent all the slot. Thank you very much, and clap your hand.
Thank you very much to our moderator as well as our panelists for the great session, and thank you to our audience for the great questions as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a short break for coffee, if you need any, and we will resume later on with our MOU signing ceremony. So please enjoy the break, and we will be back soon at 4 p.m. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are now going to start the MOU signing ceremony on Global Digital Testbed Cluster between our 4 organizations. We'll now start, and we are joined by Director General Seung of Maritime Safety Policy Bureau at the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries of the Republic of Korea. And we'll also be joined by Mr. Mick Kinley, the CEO of AMSA, Secretary General Francis Zachariae of IALA, and Director Abri Kampfer of IHO. With that, please welcome them with a big round of applause to the stage. Thank you very much. So, gentlemen, before we officially sign the documents, I would like to briefly go over the background of our MOU signing ceremony. It's to further strengthen the cooperation between international organizations and countries for ocean digital transformation, and to create harmonious international standardization together through joint trials and verifications of marine digital technologies to be developed in the future. And with that, let us begin the signing ceremony. So this is between the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries of the Republic of Korea, IALA, AMSA, and the IHO. And gentlemen, if you are ready, please sign the documents in the respective areas. Thank you very much. We will have 4 rounds of signatures. So with that, our staff will help you in passing down the documents. And once you have been handed a new document, please sign in the respective areas with the exchanged document. Thank you very much. Hand them down once again. Thank you. I count the 3rd time. I believe that Mr. Mick Kinley is the one that has to wait the longest, as he is at the very end. So please give him your patience. One more time, please. Is that all? Yes, we have completed the 4 signatures. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Thank you. And now, gentlemen, please stand for the commemorative photo with the MOU documents. Thank you. Please hold up your documents and stand for the photo with the MOU documents facing the cameras. And we will set the stage so that the photos will be beautiful. And so please, we ask for your patience. It will only be a few seconds. Gentlemen, we have a cameraman in the center, so please move towards the center a little bit. Thank you. I will count to 3. So 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Thank you very much. One more round of photos, one more round without the documents. Shall we do without the documents? Thank you. I have been recommended that we do one without the mask. So one with and then one without. Let's do. So this one with the masks, and then the next one we'll do without. 이번은 마스크를 착용하시고 다음은 마스크를 벗고 하도록 하겠습니다. So I will count to 3 once again. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. And now without the masks. Thank you very much. What a breath of fresh air. Thank you. I will give you a little bit of time to put your masks away. And ladies and gentlemen in the audience, please give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you for your cooperation. Oh, yes. And now Secretary General is already a Korean. He knows the little hearts from Korea. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now you may return to your seats. Thank you very much for joining us on this very auspicious occasion. And we wish for an even brighter future for the industry. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, now that we have signed and sealed the MOU documents, we have a brighter future ahead. However, when we are enjoying ourselves, time tends to fly a bit faster. And it's already time for us to have the closing ceremony for the Digital at Sea Asia Pacific Conference. So now the closing ceremony will proceed with a highlight video of the past 2 days. We've actually had 5 different sessions, and in fact, we've had many discussions and presentations. So I would like to introduce to you some of the highlight stories as well as the videos of what we have been through over the past 2 days. With that said, let us watch the highlight video of the 2022 Digital at Sea Asia Pacific Conference.
IALA
much for your attendance. Our delegates online.
대결에 나아야 할 과제. This year's conference due to the 있는 대한 디지털 정보 정보 공간 소지감을 통하여 자리가 되기를 기대합니다.
조승환 장관님.
On the very successful the legacy today, and I'm very happy that it's one of us to get ship owners and seafarers on board.
1, 2, 3. Smile. I know that we have a lot to discuss, but we all
After this impressive welcome, so in my mind, you are holding ships and on careers and obvious case for rolling on globus.
The navigation committee has somewhat down in shape. Emission reduction will have some privilege. How?
Bluetooth earphones. 접칠 수는 없지만. Those were our highlights of our conference, ladies and gentlemen. And I must say, all of you look very handsome and beautiful on camera. So I believe that your faces are very camera friendly. So congratulations to that as well. It has been a long and very hardworking 2 days. It seems almost like a week ago since we first met yesterday morning. But it's been a very long 2 days as well. So with that said, I think that it is time for us to wind down with our closing remarks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Secretary General, Mr. Francis Zachariae of IALA for his closing remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Although you think we look good on camera, we don't want to go back on the virtual conference. We would like to.
I do not either.
Face to face. So, of course, firstly, I would like to thank all the dignitaries and the special guests who made time to be with us at the opening session and also during the conference here. It really reflects the importance and status of such an event, and it was truly an honor to meet with them and with the minister here the first day yesterday. Next, I would like to thank all the speakers. I do not think we all appreciate and understand the amount of time and preparation it takes in putting together these presentations that we have seen the two days. Not only the time in preparing slides, but also the months and sometimes years of research and work that goes into the studies that resulted in the information shared with us over the last 2 days. During the first day, I really enjoyed the view into the future use of digital solutions for the maritime sector, especially decarbonization, but also other helpful tools. It was again stressed that we need global harmonization of standards by all participating organizations, authorities, and manufacturers. It was also very promising to hear about the progress of the MCP. We have worked on that for many, many years. The same with VDES, a project that we have worked on many years, and 2 projects in which IALA has been very much involved. So I was really happy to see the progress on these 2 projects. Today we heard about the harmonized approach and the need again to coordinate the regional testbed results in the digital cluster. And we have just signed a memorandum of understanding to that end that will help this harmonization and coordination. This was followed by a session about cyber risks and the challenges we all face in this digital area. We also heard much about the Digital at Sea project from the DMA and RTCM, and we all look forward to the conference in Denmark early next year. Dr. Lee told us about the progress, the finalization of the SMART project in Korea. Fantastic, impressive, I must say. And I looked at the CEO from AMSA, Ms. Kinley. He was jealous because it's really amazing, and I think it will create a school for the rest of the world, this technology. And of course, our gracious host, the Ministry of Ocean and Fisheries, the team in the Secretariat, and the charming Master of Ceremony, Ms. Cho. We just talked about, this is your 4th e-navigation Digital at Sea conference. So Ms. Cho now knows so much about the maritime sector that you can be a speaker at the next conference and tell us about this. What an outstanding effort and execution. And I would really like to thank the whole team behind this conference for the professional setup and service. We have received many emails and wonderful information, and we felt very much prepared coming here to Korea. You've really done an excellent job, and I think we all want to congratulate you with the fantastic result. I'm sure that the Digital at Sea conferences will be as successful, the series of conferences, and add valuable input to the broader digital agenda, as we heard the DMA will focus on in Copenhagen. As we heard many times during the conference and former conferences, a challenge for us is the international global harmonization of standards. And before the digital standards are globally harmonized, it makes little sense in the maritime sector that is truly global and without borders, physical or digital. This harmonized and global approach is necessary, absolutely necessary for a successful implementation of the ambitious digital maritime agenda that we are all looking for. The Digital at Sea conferences, and before that, the e-navigation on the way conferences, are a perfect step in that direction. I think we move ahead a little bit every time we meet each other. Lastly, I would like to thank you, all the delegates who came here, and without your participation and contribution, this would not have been a success. Very good questions and dedication, and I thank you very much for that. The conference highlights that will be produced after this conference, I think will be excellent as well, and they will be used for the further work within IALA and elsewhere. We normally distribute them to the 4 committees, and they scrutinize all the highlights, and they take whatever they can into the work of the recommendation and guidelines of IALA. Finally, and it's wonderful to say that after 3 years, I wish you a safe trip home. It's not just a matter of closing your laptop and go to the kitchen. Now we are really, we really go home after this conference. It feels very good, actually, to say that after these years with the pandemic and restrictions on travels and physical gatherings. And I hope to see you very, very soon again, and maybe without a mask. Take the last restriction away, And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Francis Zachariae of IALA, for your closing remarks. Definitely, next time we meet, we do hope that COVID-19 will definitely be over so that we can see each other physically in one location without our laptops and without our masks. Over the past 2 days, I think that all of our discussions have taught us that we can no longer work in silos and we have to work all together and cooperate, just as the bodies of water are all connected. So I hope that this brings us all together once again, and sooner rather than later. I hope that Korea has left an indelible mark in your memories and that it brings you back to Korea sooner than later as well. Thank you to all of our guests who have attended physically as well as virtually and sparing your precious time with us. And the Digital at Sea Asia Pacific Conference will be back next year with also a timely subject, solidifying its base as one of the major conferences for sharing maritime digital technology and achieving digital transformation. We ask for your continued support and interest in our conference. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and do have a safe trip back home. Thank you very much.